Moderators can, that's fine. All right, well, hello. I'm doing a live stream with wasn't expecting to be doing one, but a number of positive circumstances have come together, and so here we are with the palm trees here, but not in California, somewhere else. Let me pull up the stream here so I can watch along your comments and take guesses as to where I might be tonight. Let's see, we got Bob the Monkey saying, hey, the road sign goat. Trackle Charm says, I wish you would cover Interstate 35 in San Antonio. I've never been to San Antonio, so that's going to be something new in the future I'll have to do. San Antonio, too, has all the double-decker freeways. I want to know the history on that. I believe that's San Antonio. Bennett's here. Hello from Greenville. Incredible job on the last video. Well, I'd imagine so. You helped me with make it. The Cabbage Gamer Chant says hello. East Coast Route Reviewer says hiya. Bad Drivers of North Central Massachusetts, I'm guessing, says evening. Well, evening, which is indeed what it is. Super chat from Bennett. Thank you, Bennett. Says hi. Hello from Los Angeles. The stream is indeed quite a surprise. How are you doing? Yo, Vegas. So this is not Las Vegas. Still taking guesses where it might be. Looking for clues, but it's not Las Vegas. Like I say, when I say this is a surprise, it's a surprise. 1 week ago, I didn't expect I'd be standing on the sidewalk here, but a number of circumstances came together, and for a very short window of time, just tonight, I choose to come do work because it's fun. You know, anytime I end up in a new city, I think I got to do a live stream on this because when's the next time I have a chance to do that? So, not Las Vegas. Hello, Vegas vibes. Trackle Charm says, come to San Antonio. We have a ton of double-decker highways. They're building an upper decks that's interchange. There's only no exits. Yeah, Texas in and of itself, which is not where I am, but Texas in and of itself is I could probably do an entire year of videos just on Texas. So let's see, New Mexico, no. Orange County, San Diego, Miami, Dallas, Tucson, no palm trees in Dallas. So I'm skipping over the correct answer because a few of you have it correct. No, San Bernardino is not it. You know, it's funny. The first McDonald's was in San Bernardino. If you watched I think it was on Netflix, the movie The Founder, about the Ray Kroc story, and how the McDonald's brothers started it in San Bernardino, but then they got kind of forgotten about, written out of the history. And you'd think the site of the very first McDonald's in San Bernardino would be quite the museum. And there is something there, but it always looks closed and gated off and just kind of really sad, almost or practically abandoned, right? And I think that's the way the McDonald's Corporation wanted it to be. They want to write San Bernardino off the map. You want some fun sometime, a little bit of patting on the back for the county I currently live in San Bernardino County. Look up how many fast food restaurants were founded in San Bernardino County. And it's an enormous amount. I can't remember, but I think Del Taco, McDonald's, I forget. I think Taco Bell might have started out that way too, but it's just San Bernardino County was the birthplace of all the fast food places. But indeed, this is not downtown San Bernardino. We're getting more correct answers here. Not Reno. I've thought about it. Reno would probably be too. I don't know about you. How's the weather been this holiday season? This Christmas season? Because I thought, from where I currently am to where I'm spending Christmas in Salt Lake City, that inevitably over the next few days, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when I'm driving home for Christmas, right, that I would be having to really watch my route because it's going to be really cold and snowy. But so much of the country has been unseasonably warm. When I left on this impromptu business trip of sorts. 1 week ago when I found out I was doing this, it was like 86 degrees or something back home in California. And here tonight, I think it's got to be like 65 at this secret location where I'm standing that many of you are guessing correctly. Bennett with a super chat and a guess that I'll actually pay attention to. Bennett writes, the Hollywood Palladium in Los Angeles. No, but you got the LA part right. But it's not Los Angeles. Unless there's a Hollywood Palladium in this town. Let's see. Jesse writes, I'm in Bakersfield, foggy and cold. I sympathize. I lived in Bakersfield for a couple of years. And it's most of the time almost as nice as any other place in California. I mean, it's not the coastal weather, but the inland weather that you'd have anywhere in LA. But you get this inversion, this valley fog, where the nice warm air is on top and the polluted cold air is underneath. And Bakersfield and the whole Central Valley has been stuck in fog for a little while now. So the Grove, nope, it's not the Grove. Let's see. Lusty and Xbox Controller writes, what up, Rob? My wife and I are excited for the Swamp Rabbit Trail video to come out soon, hopefully January. I mean, I can't edit it now, I'm not home, but I'll be home sometime soon after Christmas, and I'll get right on it. And I'm anticipating middle of January to have that one done. I've got a lot of great footage, help again from Bennett, who is the Greenville resident who tipped me off on the story and helped me get in touch with a lot of the people, basically everybody I interviewed. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and editing that. Palm Springs, nope. Again, I'm skipping the correct answers. So no, but it looks kind of like Palm Springs. Palm Springs, if I hadn't made this impromptu business trip, which actually did not involve filming a story here. In fact, I'm just happened to be passing through tonight and thought, oh shoot, I better do a live stream because this is my first time here, and I don't know the next time I'll get here. And wait too long, I might be a little sloshy walking around, you know. Davis writes, it's mirrored. Okay, I can do something about that here. So YouTube broke their own app. So I got to watch my stream here so I can see where I'm at. Maybe people will guess better once, oh yeah, I'm a little bit delayed. This is a clue. This maybe help you guess where I might be. For those who still haven't gotten the correct answer out of the comments. That is one ugly sounding mass transit vehicle. My question is that original? I didn't do an enormous amount. I'm actually quite unprepared to come and talk to you about this town because I've never been here. I know almost nothing about it except it gets wet sometimes. And I'm just not familiar with the transportation that they have here because I wasn't planning to be here. But an old streetcar like that, did it survive the 1950s when, if you've seen the film urban planners love to watch, it's the Taken for a Ride. It's the factually correct but conspiratorial in its tone story of how mass transit in the US, how General Motors and Firestone bought up what was left of the old streetcar lines like that and ripped them all out. And so I'm wondering, something that old, is that a remnant of something that's survived from that era? I don't know. Okay, so I have to monitor a slightly delayed version of my stream. So if sometimes I wander a little off axis and disappear, it's not intentional. I don't have a screen to look at, but the cameras on this phone should be a little bit better on this side anyway. So YouTube ruined their own app. It worked wonderfully where I could just look at the selfie camera, frame myself up, read your comments. Now I have to bring a second phone to track what I'm doing, read what you're writing, because, and I'd forgotten until you made the comment, YouTube, when you do selfie, mirrors it, and there's no way in the software to unmirror it. And on this live stream tonight, any super chat you send in, because YouTube is paying the hosting and the promotion and all sorts of things, I think they take a cut somewhere between 30 to 40%. Not to discourage you from sending a super chat, but it's a fee that helps pay and support all the bandwidth. You know, video streaming is enormously expensive, and you would think if you and me are creating content that helps them generate revenue, that they would want to make sure the app works well so you can have a good experience, so you want to contribute so that YouTube can also get paid. But evidently YouTube don't care, and so they flip the image and just hope that you don't care. So, all right, well, we'll see how this works out. I also looked a little squashed. Okay, let's take a look here and see what, let's go walk down there and take a look. And if you haven't guessed the city yet, I'll just tell you, it's New Orleans, off of Interstate 10, which if I stay on it, just takes me all the way home. It's just kind of weird to be, 5 states away and look at the freeway and go, if I stay on this thing, Now, if you look at a map, Interstate 10 doesn't, it should just go straight across Louisiana and not dip down south to New Orleans, but they brought the freeway down here, because they wanted to make sure the city's connected. And I think Interstate 12 is the one that takes you straight across New Orleans if you want to skip town. But 10 comes down here, and when you get this close to a major American city, while it's still here, I'm half joking. It's kind of nice to be able to, actually come see the thing while I'm here. So I did. Then I'll keep heading home tomorrow. We got a super chat again from Bennett. Thank you, Bennett, who is tonight's sponsor. Bennett writes, these super chats are giving us Rob Mardi Gras beads. So if you like what I'm doing tonight and you think I'm pretty, you could give me beads by giving a super, according to Bennett. That's funny. Introvert writes, hi, Robbie Rob. Let's see. P. Furry says, get a hurricane local drink. I'm driving, so I'm not. My siblings, well, my brothers, my sister's all right. My brothers didn't handle their liquor well. So if they're watching tonight, sorry. So I just kind of take it at my age. I'm following after I'm following after great moral mentors who also don't drink, like Jay Leno and Donald Trump. Joining the ranks of really brave and pinnacles of entertainment and society who are total teetotalers. Addie. All right, let's see what else we got here. Well, a little bit slow right now, so let's go walk around. Check this out. I know there's a lot of times the number of people watching can be quite large because I give a one-day warning so people know. But you guys get to have fun. It's kind of a little smaller group tonight because people didn't know. Road guy canceled. Uh-oh, what did I say? If that's the Jay Leno thing, I take it back. Team Coco, right? So right here is interesting. You have most of as you'll see in a minute, most everything's really small. But here they have, I don't think I'm supposed to cross on that. It's kind of narrow. I'll go anyway. So because of the trolley tracks, there aren't really left turn lanes. As we see as we walk around tonight, most of the streets are incredibly narrow because New Orleans predates the car. And basically it's just a network of alleys, you know. And but this is Canal Street, one of the, you know, it intersects here. I guess this is what, Elk Place? That doesn't sound right. There's another big street up there, but I can't read what the sign is. There isn't a ton of room for all the movements you'd need where two streets meet, so they just kind of ban left turns, best I can tell. And I think there's no left turns here. So that's one of the challenges of a big intersection. So I guess in theory people need to go around the block, but I've noticed as you start to drive more on the outskirts of downtown New Orleans tonight, they use super streets. So you go through the intersection, make a U-turn, like a Michigan left, and then come back the other way, which I think actually kind of makes it fun. In fact, you can see over there, if we can catch it in time, the guy in the Tesla there who, I guess he's making a left turn across the tracks. I'm amazed that they let people just walk and turn across these trolley tracks here. But hey, we got another super chat. Alio Media, thank you very much. I'm going to put you in the double-digit club, even though you're off by a penny, but you deserve it. Alio Media writes, enjoy some beignets while you're in NOAA. I will, because, and I'm ashamed to say this, I'm not entirely sure what a beignet is. I'm not even entirely sure I'm pronouncing it right. You know, I moved to I grew up in one of the, let me come around here and set this up so I can see your smiling faces here. A lot of horn honking tonight. I grew up in Salt Lake City that has no diversity in naming whatsoever. I think the most, other than weird Utah names. You know, you want a real foreign sounding town, you can live in Spanish, and it's foreign because it has the name Spain in it. But I moved to California, so I started to get, you know, some of the Spanish words. It was one that I made my parents cringe as a kid because we bought this, you know, those Kmart swing for two things that, the cover on it and everything, like a porch swing. It was a La Jolla was the model. And my parents being from California, they could say La Jolla. Me, growing up in the suburbs of Salt Lake City, goes, oh, it's a La Jolla. So I'm getting better at saying the Spanish words. What you don't see a ton of in California are French words. So a beignet, if I'm pronouncing that right, is totally new to me. Of course, I can't give my dad too much credit. He loves to order a tostado. Beignet, okay. Thank you, Geoduck Envy. I'm saying it right. I will. Transit biker rights reminds me of parts of Philly where there's no turn lanes next to the boulevards. You got to use the cross streets instead. And in fairness, this is a huge grid, so of course they can. I've kind of been dawdling here before I walk on because I was thinking that one of the streetcars that come by, we could kind of watch it up close. I noticed down in the distance we've got something coming, and it ain't a streetcar. And again, I'm surprised they let people walk across the tracks. I'm impressed they let people make U-turns across the tracks. And as you're about to see, I'm incredibly impressed that evidently they just let emergency vehicles cruise their way down the tracks here. So let's take a look here and see what's this all about. Aaron in Minneapolis with the super chat. Aaron, thank you. Says, have fun down there. Greetings from the other end of the Mississippi, Minneapolis, Minnesota here. So, yeah, he's telling the pedestrian not to start walking. Let's see, there's a car in his way. Going around. Wonder if that's why I haven't seen a streetcar in a while. I mean, hope not, but I hope there's not a Yeah, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis is interesting because for those of us old enough to, remember radio, and really old enough to remember when radio actually went by their call letters. They weren't, 93.7 the Fox, they were KFRX, And all the radio stations with a K are on the west side of the Mississippi, and all the radio stations with a W for their call letters, like WHTZ, they were on the east side of the river. And the Twin Cities, Minnesota, because the river splits it, trying to think. That's Minneapolis. That's the, what do you call it? The Mississippi River. That's what we're talking about. KDWB, Richfield, Minneapolis. So it must be on the west side. So I was going, oh, okay, KSTP should be a W. Hey, did you see that? The school bus made an illegal left turn. Oh, man. All right, let's keep walking. Let's see what this crazy school bus is up to over there. Blowing left turns. And so you have a split intersection here that I'm not real crazy about here. So you can make the green at the first signal and then miss the second signal. And so then you have to have a little bit of storage on the far side of the intersection. But that's just asking for people, like this guy who made his illegal left turn here, to start blocking this intersection because there's not enough storage, because there's a green, so people may fill this in as storage here, but then there's still a red there. It's important of signal coordination, making sure that even if you're not crazy about the automobile, all right, looks like our ambulance friend went the wrong way. That or he was doing one heck of a U-turn. Probably can't hear it on the stream, but see, we got storage going on here. Back in the median here. Farther down the block, he was revving that V8. It sounded like a sports car. Like, okay, what's this? Okay, so this guy's making his illegal left on red and taking off down that way. Those people are running the red. That guy just made an illegal left on red. All of this to accommodate an intersection with the streetcars. I was thinking too, I don't know how, other than the streetcar lines, how good the mass transit is. I know I stayed out in the suburbs because I have a car and I don't want to pay $50 at one of these downtown hotels to park it. And so I stayed out in Metairie, I think. But yeah, I'm busy working.
All right. What are you going to be on?
Just YouTube. Not the big deal. Just with some friends. So showing them the streetcar. So, but I thought about taking transit in to. Oh yeah. People are crazy on the freeways here. They a lot of fast tailgating. That even I'm used to Los Angeles drivers, and even by my standards, it was giving me a little bit of white knuckle driving here on the 10 coming in to, between up high Slidell, if I'm pronouncing that right, where if I was going to keep driving straight home, if you're following along on a map, you'd take I-West, but you can dip down south on I-10. And that stretch from Slidell down here to New Orleans, I think a lot of it was signed 60 miles an hour, and people were just flying 80 miles an hour, and seemed pretty skillful at it. It just was also, they're not afraid to cut in real tight and tailgate each other and change lanes without a blinker. I think that was the one main thing I was getting real stressed about. Okay, here comes our streetcar. There goes our streetcar. That's cool. All right, well, let's walk across the street when the light tells me I can. And meantime, let's also look and see. I think my live chat is, I have fallen way behind. I got to go backwards here. So Aaron, thank you very much again. And greetings from the other end of the Mississippi, where I imagine if it's 65 degrees right now where you're at, that's wonderful. And there's something very wrong with the world at the moment, if it is. But you know, bundle up, stay warm, right? Thanks again. Let's see. Airbus, right? School bus drivers or something else. Indeed, they are. Let's see. WSM. Somebody wrote about WSM here. Yeah, WSM radio is an outlier in call signs, only 3 letters. Yeah, the old radio station. So again, I grew up in Salt Lake City. You had KSL, and they got their call letters back probably in the late 1920s when they didn't think there were going to be that many radio stations. So sure, why not? Give them 3 call letters. WSM in Nashville that almost dumped the Grand Ole Opry to run syndicated right-wing talk radio programs 20 years ago, and thankfully some people with some wisdom realized that, you know, WSM's probably more, oh no, you know what, it wasn't talk radio, it was sports. I think they were going to be an ESPN affiliate. Regardless, I'm no fan of the Grand Ole Opry, but a lot of people are, and that, I don't know, it just seems more special than syndicated talk. Lazy 92, good to see you again, the super chat. You're streaming from Bourbon Street would be amazing. Oh, stick around tonight. We're working our way over there. Thanks again. Yeah, thanks again for your super chat. Rob, do you know if Everest Burger, it's Burgerman 101, locations are as good as the Santa Clarita one you mentioned? I've only been to 2. So Everest Burger in Santa Clarita is good. They had one in Altadena. I often stopped there. I'd be on the 210 freeway, I'd zip up. And I'm ashamed to say, when we had the horrible wildfires back in January, one of the first things I did when they, you know, the county, CAL FIRE had put out the map showing all the buildings that were damaged. I went to see if Everest Burger had burned down, and indeed it has. If you look on Google Maps, put in Everest Burger, Altadena. All right. Oh, it's not my turn. That's why. Not my. Okay. I need to watch. So he had a green arrow. So whose turn is it? Okay. So the bus is sitting in the storage now for that second traffic signal, and that's blocking the people wanting to go straight. Earlier, I messed up the right turn. To keep me safe, they put up a sign that says no turn on red. So they gave a green arrow, but I just saw the green, so I started to walk, and so I delayed that Chevy Avalanche or whatever, and then that made it where they couldn't clear out all the right turns. So, okay, oh shoot, it's my turn. This is what happens. Text and walk, you know. Get myself killed. Get a ticket for distracted walking. A nice little promenade here. Let's see. Oh, we have a Canadian really opening a wallet tonight. Season's greetings from 45 Nuts Part Deux. Even have a little bit of a French Canada going on with our French Quarter. Thank you very much. 45 Nuts Part Deux. I never took French. Part Deux. They'll get it close. Let's see. Season's greetings indeed. It's funny. Time goes so fast. I've been so busy working. I never sat down to decorate anything. I haven't purchased any Christmas presents. I haven't even listened to Christmas music. What I've had, I got in the car the day after Thanksgiving, and Evanescence was on, Bring Me to Life. And I was like, you know, this is fine. Nothing puts you in the Christmas mood like, you know, how could you? I don't know. I'm not going to imitate her, but there's our trolley again on Canal Street. Jackie 299, the super chat. McDouble on me. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I do like. I might upgrade it to an In-N-Out, if you don't mind. I don't get a double patty for that, but I do get I think a slightly better burger. Not being a McDouble snob. I'm just saying. I don't know. It's just something really. I like the In-N-Out. Every time prices go up, they just raise it like a nickel. So it's never felt any more expensive than it did 15 years ago. Where it seemed like McDonald's, it's like they kept their prices really, really, really low for a long, 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 long time, and then just sort of decided, okay, now we're going to significantly raise the prices. Which I suppose nothing wrong with that, but it just feels, I don't know, I hate feeling clobbered. 2 Egg McMuffins are, you know, $12. Like really bad. You know, just sit there going, that's too much. Let's go across the street here and check out what's going on. But Jackie, thank you very much for your super chat. Elliot, yeah, well, I'll get your name right. Let's focus on crossing the street, and then it's not Elliot. It's something else. There's no T there. But you are sending greetings from Seattle. We got our tracks here. It's going to get interesting if I want to stop and talk to you, because a lot of these, oh no. That's what happens when you leave a bottle of white out in public. No trucks. That says no trucks longer than 36 feet without permit. All right, give you a peek here of where we're going to be headed here. This is Bourbon Street and Canal, and you go, what a nice little alley. So that's so you can access the parking behind the shops. And the answer is no. There's a whole city back in there, and I drove through it earlier. It's not a good place to drive. So I sit there and say, well, what options could we do? And I say, well, you know, to make it a more pleasant driving experience, I suppose we could just widen all the streets, knock down all the buildings, and end up with a wonderful place to drive that nobody wants to go. So they didn't do that, and instead leaned into it and realized, well, that's what that 10 freeway is over there. You want to zip fast across town, you take that. You have a few of these wide streets like Canal, but otherwise, they got like a party bus going. I'll show you that. Making a U-turn here. Speaking of school buses, you got that red school bus across the street jamming music. I don't know if you can hear it in the distance. That looks like, it's like all graffitied up. That is great. It's got ground lights on, and that's got to be so loud to be riding in that. But it's just kind of funny to see a party bus graffitied up making a U-turn across trolley tracks in the middle of a busy city. Now, you don't see that every day. Camry dragging on the ground. Okay, so we were talking about tearing down an alley. which you could do. I mean, that is a valid thing to do. But it gets into the philosophical question of what's the point of these streets? Well, it's end destination, right? The goal, everything here is to get customers into the bars and restaurants and hotels that exist here. And so we could have those customers come in by car. There's nothing wrong with having customers come in by car. We do it in the suburbs all the time, and I think it works great. But that's not the goal here, because everything's close together. And if they do arrive by car, well, then we need a place for them to park. So we built a parking garage, which means I got to tear down a bunch of the businesses that were making money to put in the parking garage, and then widen the streets, which means getting rid of the sidewalks and tearing down some of the buildings to make room for the cars to be able to drive to the parking garage. So when they get to the end destination, you have a miserable end destination, because it's all based on infrastructure to get the cars in and out of the end destination. That, you know, and so kind of like Disneyland, you know, we could build a Disneyland to have where when you get off Splash Mountain, once it reopens. But can you believe that there was a Song of the South themed ride in Anaheim, California, as recently as like 2 years ago? That's what it was. It was Song of the South, the ride. They don't even release that movie because it's so bad. Well, troublesome anyway. And they made a whole theme park ride out of it. I said, well, that makes sense. They probably built Splash Mountain back in the 50s when the park opened. No, Splash Mountain opened I think in my lifetime, like I think in the late 80s. So some executive at Disney goes, hey, let's build Song of the South, the ride. You come off Splash Mountain once it becomes the Moana experience or whatever they're turning it into. And you walk out to the parking lot, you get in your car, you drive through some stoplights, and you eventually end up, that's the New Orleans Police Department driving a Chevy Spark. Just thought I'd point that out. And you drive to the Matterhorn parking lot, and you get out of your car, you walk over to the Matterhorn, you get in a line and you ride the Matterhorn, and then you get off the Matterhorn, and then you walk back to the parking lot, and you get in your car and you drive through some stoplights and some traffic, and you park again at the Dumbo ride, and then, you know, the Jungle Cruise, and then you know, we wouldn't do that because the end destination is more fun if you don't have to keep parking and unparking, right? Like, apparently we don't mind doing that between like Costco and Walmart and Sam's Club, and they're large buildings. A lot of times you're not going to multiple destinations, so parking and unparking at Walmart is not a problem. A lot of suburban destinations are that way. They're also not fun like Disneyland. And so part of what makes this kind of fun is we get 2 blocks down where the crowds are really going, is that you're not parking and unparking all the time. This is intentionally bad to drive in. They don't want me here in my car. And so I'm gonna have a lot more fun tonight with you walking around on foot than I did 3 hours ago driving through here to check it out in my car, where I decided I better do a live stream tonight when I saw it. And anyway, let's get caught up on Super Chats, and we'll walk down there. So, and I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Lipton, Island Lipton. Am I getting that right? Island Lipton, 9640 with a Super Chat. Hi, Mr. Road. Season's greetings from Seattle. Well, season's greetings to you too. And I've never been to Seattle. I'm hoping to go up there next summer. So maybe some stories will come out of that. We'll have to see. Bennett again. Hello, Bennett. I would pay to hear Rob perform Evanescence. Are you paying for me to sing, how can you feel within my eyes with open doors? Yeah. Breathing out the... Mark reviews, In-N-Out tattoo. No. Ew. No. Any of you watch Kurzgesagt in a Nutshell? It's a wonderfully animated German channel. I can't rate it more highly. They just did a video about tattoo removal, and makes me so glad I never got tattoos. Ouch. Because you didn't change it. I would, if I ever had a tattoo, which I wouldn't. I don't even like to write on my hand with pen, like. But if I did, I would change my mind later, and then I need it removed. And apparently, to remove it, you like blow up your skin. It's really doesn't look fun. But yeah, thanks again, Bennett and Mr. or Mrs. Lipton, whoever. I from the first name I can't tell, but thank you. Let's see, Bailey Dude with a double with a double with a double digit. Bailey Dude 1. Well, thank you very much. Hello from Argyle, Texas, and now I need to look up where that is. So Argyle is in Texas. Argyle, if I spell it right. Taking bets. Where is it? It is just north of Fort Worth. I've gotten incredibly close to Argyle. I think I jumped off 35W at, what freeway is that? The 267. Started going up that way. The relatives live out that way. But yes, if I had stayed on the freeway and gone up past the 114 on the 35W, I would have ended up in Argyle before everything starts merging back together in Denton. What is that? Another party bus this time. I guess a party bus is the thing here. I guess it's more fun than the double-decker vans that they have on Hollywood Boulevard. They're supposed to like give you tours of celebrities' homes, but of course, every celebrity of that kind of caliber who somebody would want to go on a tour to see lives behind a wall with shrubs, and so you just see a bunch of gates. I don't think it would be that interesting. Oh, maybe if I sit up on the upper deck, I'll be able to see over the wall, and as if like, somebody's who's a celebrity you'd see on that tour? The woman who had the talk show and everybody loved her, and then suddenly they didn't like her anymore and said she was mean. And then her ex-wife crashed her car because she was drunk. I forget who that is. But anyway, as if she's going to be out, like, doing yard work and stuff. And the bus is going to stop, and you're going to walk up, and she's going to open the gate, and you'll be able to run up and say how much you're a fan of her work, and screw the haters, and then she'll sign an autograph and invite you in to have coffee with her. And I don't know what people's expectations are when they get on those double-decker vans. It sounds to me like getting on a spray-painted double-decker party bus. Here it comes. There's another one. See it? It's like a prison bus. It's like an old school bus painted almost black, just jamming music. Not quite as fun as the graffiti one with the ground lights earlier, but I think they keep stopping at that same smoke shop or whatever. I wonder if that's like their drop-off point. But they look like they're having fun. Smoke some. It looks like a great town if you like to drink, which unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't. But I've seen a lot of well-dressed people over in the French Quarter or in the Bourbon Street area, which we'll walk to here. A lot of well-dressed people over there, and it was funny too because they're all like business drunk, or maybe a little past business drunk because they're in New Orleans and probably on vacation. And I had my window down, these guys walking down the sidewalk, and I can't remember some big word, anti-disestablishmentarianism or something, but it's the guy going, there's something really funny. You want to hear something funny? The funny thing about anti-disestablishmentarianism is that, this got a kick out of it because it wasn't the normal stereotype of somebody who'd had a few, because they looked like people pushing 60 who had master's degrees or something. Anyway, I got a kick out of that. But thanks again from Argyle, Texas, Bailey Dude. I appreciate that. Island Lipton writes again, Mr. Road Guy, you got my name exactly right. Another burger for you. Thank you. Well, thank you. The cool thing with when I get back in In-N-Out country soon is that $5 gets you a really solid burger. So My menu of value places to eat, because I don't like to spend a lot, but I do love to eat out because cooking is chemistry. Think about it. You are in a chem lab, you have to weigh things out, and you have to set things to certain temperatures. You have to mix them in the proper order, and if you do anything wrong, your experiment fails. And cooking, you weigh things out, you have to mix them in the proper order. And of course, with both of them, you got to wash the lab when you're done. And you have to justify why it all went wrong. At least I don't have to keep a chemistry notebook, a lab notebook in the kitchen. And if I did, it would be quite sad. So I like to go out to eat instead, because I hated chemistry lab and I don't really like the kitchen because it turns out badly. How does French toast go bad? I take my gluten-free bread, I take my eggs, I mix a tiny bit of water to fluff them up, mix it together, and like a third of the time, I have the best French toast ever. On a chilly night, little French toast, it's just phenomenal. Okay, why is it the other 2/3 of the nights, it turns out terribly, and I did the exact same thing? I don't know if I mixed too much water or not enough water, if I get the temperature on the stove wrong, and there's not a way, it's not like an oven. Wow. Guy's jamming on his bike. I get the bike taxi pumping the music, but that guy was by himself. Looked like he was a Uber Eats guy or something, just having a good night. But when you bake something, at least you can set it and say, okay, 375. Any hotter and I burn it, any lower it doesn't cook right. 375. But when you're making French toast on a gas range, you sort of have this like infinite knob between all the way on and all the way off, and it's like, okay, almost all the way off. Okay, well, if I do that, the pilot turns out, but the gas is still on. So if I get past that, to click it to come on, it's way too hot. So I'm trying to just kind of land in this space between the gas being on too high and the pan being too hot and being turned all the way off. And so I just get frustrated. I just say, plus, you say, well, going out to get fast food at In-N-Out cost me $10 for the burger and the fries, double and fries. And that's profligate, and you should save your money, cook at home, you save a fortune, right? So I go to the grocery store, and I end up with, $75 worth of ingredients. I go, but it's okay. I'm sure I'll spread it out over 7.5 meals, right? And it feeds me for like 4. So I'm like, I don't know. So at the end of the day, $5 grabbing a burger sounds good to me. So thanks again for that, Mr. Island Lipton. Yes, thank you again, Island Lipton. Bennett, Rob, really earning those Mardi Gras beats tonight. That's funny. The people were reminding me that the celebrity who I was talking about, who couldn't remember her name, even though she was on television for 20 years, is indeed Ellen DeGeneres. Thank you. Davis, 9754 with the super chat, and he wants to talk about DFW, and we'll talk about it in just a second, but let's go up a block or two, because I know we have a lot of fun, and then we end up showing you the same wall all night long. I'm going to collapse my tripod here so I'm not bumping into people. And we'll walk on down here 2 blocks. Good evening.
Hi.
Talk about street engagement. This one's not amazing, but you do have an entrance to a hotel there. But no windows or anything to speak of. But I guess because you have busy streets 2 blocks apart, you end up with, there's a loading dock closing. The McCory store, which they built a parking garage inside. And I wonder, it would be fascinating to hear from the architects and engineers who hollowed out an old store so people could park in it. And I think I may still be zoomed in. Am I zoomed? Okay. Let's come down here. It's kind of, as I say, you get kind of this alley vibe. Even great cities that do it right still do it wrong. And but I suppose there's also only so much commercial space a market can bear, and you do have to have, you know, this, I think, a fairly tall, probably a hotel or something. If I can tip the camera back enough so you can see. It's probably going up there maybe 7 or 8 stories. So you do have to have an alley for buildings at some point. And it might just be that that's kind of where I ended up. Oh, we got some action going down that way. Let's walk down this way. So following along at home, walked off of Burgundy, walking toward the water. Now running parallel with Canal. So this looks like that was the alley for a Courtyard by Marriott. And in the meantime, hey, Davis, 9754 with a super chat. Hello, Davis. You write, hey, Rob, speaking of Dallas-Fort Worth, did you ever see what the interchange in Dallas with 345, Good Latimer, and the dark green line looked like? I think that's really close to where my last live stream. I promised you guys I'd do a live stream about every, 6 weeks. So about 6 months ago, I did my last live stream in Dallas. That one, we were kind of in that area. That Good Latimer, which is a street name, sounds really familiar. Somebody's having fun in their Nissan tonight. He's got a bottle in his hand, folks. He's got a bottle in his hand. I'm sure nothing bad can come of that. corner here, a little more street engagement here, but we're still not quite to the party you've got going on another block or so down. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna see if I can find a good place to stop here, and I'll pull up that interchange with 345 Good Latimer and the dark green line. But I think that's really close. If you want a little fun, Davis, if you haven't watched the live stream we had back in July or August, whatever the last one was, I think it was July. Check that out. At the beginning, there was a little bit of exploring and kind of walking around, but as time went on, an advocate for demolishing the 345 freeway showed up. I got some action going on here. Yeah, let's cross the street. I don't want to get involved in somebody wearing a hoodie that looks like a dinosaur. Yeah, let's go across the street. I don't want him to feel like I'm picking on him. Okay, while this goes on, I'll kick this out for a second. Let's take a look at that freeway interchange, huh? Let's see what's a little precarious the way I've got it set up here, but might be mildly interesting here. Okay, so taking a look at that freeway interchange here and trying not to block the sidewalk, which is going to be a challenge to do. 345.
No, I brought it up about a week.
That's 345. Good Latimer and the green line looks like a mess. So I don't know how well you can read a phone on a phone, but if you can, that's the interchange he's talking about. 345 flies over the top. There's a lot of advocates that love to tear that out, and it's just a whole network of ramps because you have another freeway coming up to the north, but you're also trying to drop down and grab that street down there. So I'm not quite sure. It'll be interesting to see as TxDOT plans out their plans for potentially putting 345 below ground. They may simplify a lot of those ramps out. It probably look a lot better, but it'll be interesting to see. So, but Davis, thank you very much. Let's keep keep moving because I'm blocking a sidewalk. And let's go find a spot where there's a little more room, and also check out how things are going down here. Chris Hayes says this seems like a Norm skit. Now I wish I know what it was that sounded like a Norm. I'm assuming Norm Macdonald, right? I take that as a compliment, except for the whole dying part. I'm not really a fan of Norm dying at the end, you know? Kind of like real downer on an otherwise great career. Well, if I ever meet Norm, I'll have to tell him you have to work on that material. This is where the action is, where the tourists are. And what's interesting too is you had a couple, I think about a year or two ago, somebody drive onto Bourbon Street and I think hurt and killed a number of people. And you can see here they're starting to put in barriers and things. I think they're actually fixed where I think they can pivot them. I'll have to take a closer look, but it seems to me like that's the way they're working here. Because obviously this is something where the end trip is so important that zero vehicles make sense. That letting vehicles drive onto Bourbon Street makes about as much sense as letting them drive into the mall. You know, this is the end destination. There's no need for significant transportation to move people around. They're here, you know. Looks like what they've done is they have probably quite low into the ground, have a pole, and then they're able to pivot the barriers back and forth, which is very clever. That's going to be really strong. Although I wonder if somebody strikes, there's nothing on this end to pivot it. So I think the problem is if you did strike it with a car, you might just swing the entire thing. It might not hold up. It concerns me. We'll keep looking tonight to see what type of vehicle security they put in to prevent, you know, another car attack. But it's good to see them trying to do it. But now that's interesting. On that other one, if you look at the one farther back, it doesn't look like that pin goes into the ground. So is it just raw weight that's holding this in place? It kind of almost looks like the barrier's just set here. Maybe it's just a illusion. I mean, they wouldn't put this in without actually anchoring it down. It would serve no purpose. So that's probably what they are. They're probably removable bollards that drop in the ground into a deep pocket. They can lift out, but in the meantime, it allows these gates to swing. But I don't know. I think I'd be the type. I'd be trying to have a second one over here, so it really locks it in place rather than being something that can swing. But you know, and there's hardware inside there, so there may be more to the story of how this thing works than it looks. So. Okay, well, let's step out of the way here and take a look at what we got going on here. But this is indeed the genuine French Quarter, the stereotype of the apartments and things that are up above. We're at Iberville and Bourbon Street, of course. Name of the street we're in. I wonder, too, how old some of this stuff is, or if it's something that they have to replace from time to time, but actually putting the street name in tile into the actual sidewalk. You know, Iberville and an upside down Bourbon. Nobrud, or however you pronounce that. But that's really very urban, you know, and it makes sense. It was built at a time when people did walk around. It probably had I'm sure it's called the French Quarter because it had significant French influence, and through some sort of happy circumstance, it remained relatively unchanged for a long time, and so we're still able to have it today versus a lot of other American cities that may have had this type of thing going on, but you know, over the last 100 years we changed it, trying to make it better, but ultimately, you know, didn't. Because again, we were turning end destinations into transportation corridors. And this is not a transportation corridor. This is the end destination. You know, mission accomplished. There's no need for a car to have to come through here. Got our bike taxi going again. You saw the video for December. I got to have a little bike taxi ride through Greenville, South Carolina. Now see, this barrier, they don't anchor to the ground at all. So like I say, other than just sheer mass, I was looking for if they had a vendor name on it, but I'm guessing through sheer mass, it provides protection, because otherwise, if that's a lightweight barrier and somebody strikes it with a really heavy vehicle, I don't know what kind of protection you're going to get. And I'm sure the city has wanted to put more attention to this since, like I say, since they had the incident, I don't know if it was a year or two ago. Okay, well, if I can find a good place to stop. Got a lot of fun artwork up there hanging, almost like on clotheslines between the buildings there. Kind of adds a little bit of a festive environment. And of course, as you see in cities, a very talented drummer on Home Depot buckets performing. Who am I to judge? I'm standing on Bourbon Street dancing for nickels too. I just can't, certainly can't sing Evanescence. YouTube's asking me if it's time to take a break. No. Okay, so when we last left off, we were talking about Dallas. And that is quite an interchange there. Jonathan writes, no In-N-Out in my region. Somebody else too, Mike TV writes, In-N-Out equals tiny burgers. Yes, but give me $5 to go to McDonald's, Carl's Jr., Wendy's, In-N-Out. And I would argue that the quality is going to be better at In-N-Out. They never froze the beef. And the size is probably not significantly different than what you'd find at Wendy's, McDonald's, and price might even be a little better too. So I'm going to argue that, yeah, they are tiny burgers, but they're also cheap burgers. You know, I can have the double burger and a fry for $9.60 something cents. That's not bad nowadays. I mean, it's bad, but you know, by today's standards, that's kind of how it is. So, all right. Let's see. Chris Hayes, right? Rob Live is always live. Well, it is live. PNW Parks fan, Pacific Northwest writes, what you need is an induction cooktop. That way you can set a number and the same heat every time. Probably not a bad idea, because like I was saying, I love a gas range, but I evidently don't know how to use it. Let's see. Bike taxi, writes Bennett, and Bennett sends in a #1 fan emoji. Doing a little bounce like this. But thank you for your double-digit super chat there, Bennett. Just make sure you don't get in trouble with the missus, right? You know, I don't mind. I appreciate the chats, but you know. Chris writes, food guy Rob. It's kind of like Jim Gaffigan, where Gaffigan has all these takes, but at the end of the day, I just want to hear him do food jokes. You know, I want to hear him talking about the box of Krispy Kremes that a fan gave him, and he's like, I'm not a fatty. I only ate half of them, you know. So he's still got 6 Krispy Kremes in a box, and he's like, well, I'm not going to throw these away. So he goes to TSA, and he's putting the donuts on the conveyor belt and sending them through, and he's like, and I could just see in the TSA agent's guys the judgment. So anyway, let's see. Trying to see what y'all are talking about here. The street looks like only bikes or small cars here. Yeah, I mean, this is a tourist end destination. Effectively, it's a mall. Bourbon Street's a mall. It's not. It looks like they could move barriers out of the way and get delivery trucks through here, but what purpose? I mean, I'm Mr. Car. I love cars. I love freeways. You want to widen a freeway? I'll probably say yes. Love it. Love parking. Love, but I want, you got to be smart about it. And it's like, what benefit would sending more cars through here do? If you can show me how sending more cars through would make more money, I'm all ears, but it seems to be making pretty good money. Hello. Goodbye. But it seems like sending more cars through here would make less money, not more money. So why would I want to send more cars through? Making plenty of money. Anyway. I think I'm caught up with the chats, which means let's walk around a little bit. But thanks again so far tonight to Bennett, to make sure I caught everyone, Davis, to Island Lipton, Bailey Dude, Island Lipton, Bennett, Jackie, 45 Nuts Part 2 in Canadian cash, so it's actually worth something. Laser 92, and that's as far back as I can let me scroll. So thanks to everybody so far. Let's keep walking. I think since we're here, we gotta walk more down the street here. Cinch up my pants like an old man. All right. I've noticed a lot of people drinking in public. We even saw tonight somebody driving drunk. But anyway, or driving and drinking anyway. Don't advocate that. But I believe, like Las Vegas, I think this is a city where people can walk down the street with an open container, which I guess in Europe is very common, but in the US almost everywhere bans that. You've got to finish your drink in the establishment, before you go home. And here you see people with their glasses out. Some authentic New Orleans cuisine. Big, easy daiquiris along with pizza by the slice. An oysters restaurant. Never really had oysters. 33 bar and steak. 33 being the price of the cheapest entree on the menu. I actually don't know that. I'm just making it up. Larry Flint's Hustler Club. Wow, that's real classy. Chicken Shack and daiquiris. I'm getting real Las Vegas vibes here, where everybody wants to get basically like a Slurpee, but a Slurpee that makes them drunk. Not sure what I think that's just a bar, but they're really pumping the music. I don't know what that was. It sounded like a firework. Not sure if you could hear it over the music, but I need to refresh this live chat, I think, because I'm sure more people are talking here. That or the chat's really petered down a little bit. Now that looks like classic New Orleans here, if I can get over far enough to give you a look at the building here. The shoe, all right. Somebody's shoe just sitting on the sidewalk. But check this out. Think about like a stereotype of like what a New Orleans building would look like. I wish I could zoom out more. But I mean, that's it. The round corner, the ground level engagement, the porches, the rooms above with the storm shutters. I mean, that just screams New Orleans. So to answer your question, designer. Oh, it's designer with D's, I think. You in New Orleans? The answer is I'm in New Orleans. Somebody's LOL Black Eyed Peas. I'm just the right age that Black Eyed Peas will never get old. And anytime I hear about trouble in the news, I think, what's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mama. Whoa. Somebody throwing shoes here tonight, eh? All right. Well, that's that sign, my cue to get going there. Apparently George W. Bush and I have something in common now. Got a shoe thrown at us. I don't think he was throwing at me specifically, but you were in the line of fire. It got closer to you than it did to me. I was on the other side of the camera. Userman123, hello, with your super chat here. Writes, Rob, where are you? New Orleans. I was working on a video for February that 1 week ago I didn't know I'd be working on, and it has nothing to do with New Orleans. It's actually a little farther east, just a little bit. And I don't want to spoil the surprise of what I'm working on. But on the way home, you see the sign for New Orleans. You're like, well, I've never been to New Orleans. Of course I gotta stop and check it out, you know. Now this, oh man, I'm no architecture person, and I wouldn't even begin to know the terminology to use. But I mean, those buildings, man, that is, and I'm blocking the sidewalk with the tripod. I back up enough to, but I mean, that is New Orleans. It almost feels like I'm in Las Vegas at a New Orleans themed, like, outdoor shopping mall, you know. And I mean that as a compliment. I don't mean that it's like this feels fake or anything. It feels very real. But I think partly why it doesn't feel like what I would think New Orleans would feel like is because I'm here in December and it's 65 degrees versus, you know, true New Orleans, if you're here in the summer and it's just broiling and, you know, I'm assuming it gets very hot and humid here. Definitely gets humid here. I'm sure it gets probably hot. Urban Panic writes, Rob, whatever you do, closed-toed shoes. Well, you're right, you are. I think it would be. I love flip-flops, but not on a live stream. Yeah. Oh, they're excited here. No cover charge, and the balcony is open. Drink easy, 2 for 1. Who'd have thought that a street named Bourbon Street would be full of people drinking? It's a little on the nose, don't you think? Has anybody ever stopped to count how many bars are on Bourbon Street? I mean, it's got to be 80% market share. You know, and even when you have something that's like, you know, pizza by the slice, they're still selling those Slurpees that get people drunk. So you have pizza by the slice slush daiquiris across the street from Mango Daiquiris with the same, you know, those same Slurpee machines that, you know, get people drunk. That's all I know how to describe them. The only other place I've seen them are Las Vegas. Okay, we've got some more hardware here for closing off the street that I don't quite understand. It's kind of jagged, has some wheels, but I don't get how this is supposed to work. The wheels probably let you roll it into place to be able to close off the street, but I've never seen anything like this. I bring this up if you're just joining because they had an incident, probably about a year or two ago, where somebody drove on here and a bunch of people got killed. And I think it was intentional. So I imagine the city has upped their game. I don't know what type of pedestrian protection they had in place before the incident. If they just had a few, you know, decorative things, but it looks like they're trying to put something substantial in place to. Okay, now we're getting where the market share is changing to gentleman clubs away from. I don't know. You just go a Fat Tuesday, but the barely legal club is real tacky. I'm not real fan of that. I don't know. It just seems to me in a world where we're all rightly outraged and want that Epstein list released so we can hold people accountable, it's a bit hypocritical for somebody to then go to the barely legal club, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just a prude. I don't know. Oh, we have a gift shop. The Gypsy Man gift shop. So finally something that's different than, oh look, another bar. How about that? The Fat Cats Music Club. The Concrete Cowboy. Now is that car's parked or is that... It's hard to figure out who's, like that guy looked like he was waiting at the stop sign. Okay, we got another bar across the street from a place that sells pizza and slushy and the drunk slushies. I mean, how do you tell the business apart? Is there just that much market share for frozen daiquiris? It says, Alonzo 1 says, once you get to the Cat's Meow at St. Peter, you'll be on the Earth Cam live feed. Did I just see cat? I saw Fat Cats. I haven't seen Cat's Meow yet. But let me know. I'll try to get on Earth Cam if you want to look me up. Prove I'm live. I'm not pre-taped. Oh, here we go. Somebody lecturing about Jesus. Are you the one, Jesus? I don't know. I'll ask him when he gets there. Got line dancing. Oh, another gift shop. This one's called Southland. Now here we go. This is an architectural. This, and I think Bourbon Street. This is the building I think of. Look at that. Look at all the little, what do you call those? Like, not gable windows, but dormer windows on top. You got the shutters, the balconies, about 4 or 5 stories high. Probably an old hotel. I mean, that is New Orleans right there. Which makes me wonder, I never see anything like that built in any other cities. What are the downsides to that kind of construction? It'd be fun to, another gift shop. It'd be fun to talk to another architect, or talk, no, not another architect, I don't know anything about architecture, but it'd be fun to talk to an architect to say, hey, how come stuff like this doesn't get built in, little urban villages in other places? Okay, I'm at Toulouse, and I can't pronounce my French names. Am I getting close to that Earth Cam? Pick Me writes, how much do we need to donate so you eat a beignet? I think it was, oh shoot, how much did the guy donate for a beignet? Not entirely. So that's a 4 points by Sheraton here. Urban Panic, here's a beignet and some cafe au lait, A-U-L-A-I-T. And I'm doing my best to pronounce French. I'm gonna stop here because I think it's a good place next to stuff on the ground that I don't really want to step in. Somebody, not to get too descriptive, but somebody was having a hard time with their drinking, I guess. So, be careful where I step here. But, yeah, I don't, my French, I never took any. So, cafe, A-U-L-A-I-T, au lait, I suppose. Next block is the camera. French. Oh, Vic Mir writes French. So, if you've seen Breaking Bad, the Germans, which I enjoyed because I know ein bisschen Deutsch, just a little bit of German, because I took that in school because that's useful You know, you ever run into a German person, you can tell them in English, I know a little bit of German, and they go, oh, that's good, as they reply in English. Didn't tell me that. Oh, well. But he writes French, and in Breaking Bad, Madrigal Electromotive, who owns a bunch of fast food chains, including Gus Fring's chicken restaurant, they were trying these different potato wedges, like little tater tot type things, and different types of dipping sauce you could put them in. And one was French dressing and ranch or something like that. And so it was French or something like that, or ketchup and ranch. It was crunch. You know, I can't remember, but anyway. Oh, the next block's the Cam. All right, let's keep going. So you said it was something, the Cat Cafe or something. I don't remember. I'll look for something cat related. Nice thing about being around a bunch of drunk people is nobody's looking at me funny for wearing a high visibility orange vest. It's like, Okay, we got another place selling frozen drunk slushies. Oh, cigars! Now that's a first. I haven't seen one of those tonight. Voodoo reading. I'll do the voodoo reading. I see into your future that you are $11.75 poorer. All right, have a good night. Pizza by the slice. Good to see they finally have one of those. Okay. Something that says cats. Here we go, Maison Bourbon, dedicated to the preservation of jazz. Now that actually sounds interesting, especially as a fan of the Utah Jazz, who moved to Salt Lake City from New Orleans, kept the name Jazz because there's nothing else interesting in Utah that they can name themselves after. What are they going to be, the Utah downhill skiers? Cats meow. All right. You have to direct me to where that earth cam is. I see a camera, like a ball camera. I don't know if you can see it up on the wall there. Right there, right in the middle of your screen. That might be the earth cam. So let me know. There you are on earth cam, right? It's Airbus 7373. So, all right, I'll stand here for a minute for anybody else wanting to go to the New Orleans Earth Cam and check it out. If somebody feels ambitious, I'd enjoy it. Snag a picture of me on the Earth Cam doing the live stream and email it to me, news@roadguyrob.com, NEWS, news@roadguyrob.com. I'd love to see myself. I think that'd be a lot of fun, but I'm talking to what I think is the camera right now, and so that's why I'm looking up that way. I'm actually talking to a very tall friend. Nice to see you. It's kind of a Leslie Nielsen type joke there. Okay, what fun chit chat we got going on here. Talking about the Silverado EV that I'm on the camera. I see it back. Almost everyone understands at least one language, but how many people don't understand any language, writes Burger Man? I mean, I'd hope. Tarzan, he didn't understand any language. That'd actually be really sad. I mean, you assume that everybody in the world would be able to speak one language, but there probably are very rare outliers of people born in horribly abusive circumstances where they at that age were never able to develop a language and are basically have their life ruined. You know, I mean, we always have the fictional story of Tarzan, but you also kind of wonder, like, what other circumstances like that have happened, you know. But we got a lot of Chevy discussion going on tonight. Chevy tracks for life. Well, I mean, I've got a Honda Fit, so I have no place to give you a hard time on that. Your car's bigger than mine. Okay, 99 Scott says you gotta back up a few feet. All right, we can do that. If I go around like to the other side of the corner here to Crazy Corner, with that, I'll be in the vehicle lane, but okay. Am I in the Earth Cam better now? Let me know. This is really exciting. You get a hot jazz music and a view of an alley with nothing going on. So hopefully this mic's doing its job. How's my battery doing on my phone? I just want to check and see. We're doing fine. Okay. Good. Still got 44%, so the night's young. All right. Cam moved left. Okay. Land Hike Yard 87 says, how is safety in Old New Orleans? I mean, in the touristy area that I've been in tonight, it's felt fine. No worse than any other big city. The big thing you run into is that you have people who are maybe mentally not all the way there. Maybe they're on a little bit of drugs, but most of them are harmless. The trouble is, it's awkward. And so when I was getting ready to start the stream tonight, a guy came up and was asking all kinds of questions. And I had to kind of tell him, like, sorry, man, I've got work to do, you know. And that makes us feel unsafe, but the truth is, I don't think that guy was dangerous. I think he was just weird. And, but you don't know, you know. I think the problem is we see on the news that 1 in a billion shot or 1 in a million shot where somebody gets stabbed by a homeless person or a mentally ill person. We assume every mentally ill person on the street is going to stab you. Most of them are just out of their mind, you know. This guy's aggressively trying to get people to his restaurant. Look at him. He's got his menu out. He really is excited. He was ambushing people. Let's see if he does it again here. I got good food upstairs. Come on, good food. You look like the kind of people who like to eat. How about you? How about you? You look like you could use some. You could gain some weight. Come get my food. Oh man, what a night! The boss is riding my butt, trying to make me come out on the street. Hey, Santa, you look a little skinny. Come on upstairs, get some good food. I think I scared him off. Oh, here he goes again. You like food? You like potatoes? You like fish? Come on, get some fish, fresh fish, upstairs. See, upstairs, got the fish, got the chicken, got the beef. All right, enough busting this guy. Oh, that's all good, guys. Hold on, my tripod's falling apart here. Yeah. Tighten it down here. Sorry for the shaky shot here. We're gonna tighten this up here. I'll give you, see if I can give you a view of this guy doing his job while we talk here. Oh man, they're jamming some Luther Vandross, I think. I don't know if you can hear that. That's the music going. Oh my love. I gotta fix this. This thing is falling apart here. Intermission and enjoy the Luther. Oh my love, 1,000 kisses from you is what all I love. I just don't want to stop for my love. I'm gonna scare everybody off the stream. I like a good Luther track. Hearing it live, that guy's good. Whoever's performing in there, he's just jamming it. All right, let's keep going down Bourbon Street. Now that's interesting. From something they're using light to project their advertisement down for the whatever that is. Debauchery below. Well, Sounds wonderful. I'll catch it next time. All right. Let's see. We got a gift shop. We got a place. I don't know what that is. Grill and Club. Oh, here's a fun street vendor. It's like they're having a real party in there tonight. I mean, that looks like quite the club. I mean, it's just hopping, you know. Get everybody's kind of stiff in there. Need a little alcohol to loosen them up, you know. It's like a real bummer. All right. Northbound Productions writes, hey Rob, been watching your channel for a while. You ever thinking of coming to New York? In my county, Route 332 is getting rid of New York style cable traffic lights for some fixed poles. Funny, I was, not to spoil what's coming up in February, but I happened to spend a little time today with a cable stoplight where the red, yellow, green signal heads don't have a pole holding them up. They've got wires suspended, you know, from vertical poles. And I asked the person I was talking to, how come you guys even do that at all? And this person describes it as, it's kind of like, best I can get it, it's less money up front, more money to fix. So when you have a traffic signal dangling from a wire, windstorms knock it down, tree branches, big trucks, you just have all kinds of problems. And got something going on here. Not sure what alcohol-fueled discussion happening tonight, I suppose. Looks like it's whatever happened, they've resolved it. They've made peace and they're going their separate ways. We're getting kind of to the tail end of, come on, you got to be aggressive, man. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. I get it, trying to cross Bourbon Street, no traffic control, because this is the end destination. This is not a place you're worried about cars getting through here, even on the cross streets, because any more than you would be trying to get them across the mall, you know. But it's still very, like I say, driving through here is, tonight, this area is kind of cooled down, not that crowded, but you get back down toward Canal Street, and it's a very miserable experience trying to drive through there. This is starting to chill out down here. It's a little less, it's open. We're actually letting cars onto the street. Still got the music pumping. I don't run ads against live streams since you pay for them. So I have no problem of, you know, they want to, I'm sure they'll content ID this and run ads against it anyway. But I won't get any of the money, but that's fine. I never run ads against it because, you know, you come across somebody jamming music, I don't want to be like, oh, quick, mute the live stream. You know, miss out on $7 worth of ad revenue, you know. It's fascinating. We've gone, what, 6, 7, 8 blocks? A lot of times you have some really neat urban renewal, or in this case, you know, just preserving what they've always had. And you go about 2 or 3 blocks and it kind of peters out. Fremont Street in Las Vegas is that way, where you have a neat thing going for a fairly short distance, and then you're back to just a regular street. And it's not that the Fremont experience in Las Vegas couldn't eventually get longer and bigger. It's just fascinating to see a place where it's already established and it's working for them, you know. Now here's one. They actually have a flip-up thing for to stop vehicles coming in. The trouble is, it doesn't look like it's mounted to anything. That's been my concern all night. Because I think it almost looks like the city of New Orleans is making an effort to try to have something neat, but not actually going to the trouble to You know, I've been to DC and seen what they put up around the congressional office building, and that stuff is mounted to the ground, but they also have an unlimited, you know, pocketbook. Where this, you know, this is a city that's actually trying to balance a budget, and how much money do you spend to respond to a, you know, van attack or car attack, pickup truck attack that happened once, you know. We're at Bourbon and Domain, I guess. I'm learning how to, but yeah, it's just fascinating how this just goes on and on. You know, when you talk about Bourbon Street, I don't imagine it being something that, there we go, we got an actual, like, legit Seinfeld type diner going on here. Now this is kind of chill. This is more my speed. As much as I love the Black Eyed Peas pumping loud, I'm not a fan of drinking, you know, drunk slushies with a bunch of strangers. You know, coming out here having a burger, just chilling. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Just how chill this place is. Crawfish, fried okra. That looks like a good time. A little quiet tonight, but hey, we're actually to an area where we're getting a school zone sign. Can you imagine, you know, where does your kid go to school? Bourbon Street. Oh, okay. Is that if this is the school here? This old building here. Let's stop a minute and get caught up on some of the chats. I'm going to find something maybe a little more well lit than right here, but I find a street light in a place in the sidewalk where I can block it a little bit. And not. One of the challenges is for you to hang out, me to stop bouncing around and walking around. You have to put the tripod legs out, and it takes up kind of like a circle that's maybe 3 or 4 feet in diameter. And when you have a sidewalk that's 4 feet, I basically take over the sidewalk, and then I'm one of those jerks that, you know, is the suffering from center of the universe syndrome. I don't want to do that. I think we're having some fun there. Even this bar where they're pumping the music just seems more chill and less wound up than it did a few blocks down, you know? Okay, we're at, oh, there is no street name here. A block past Dauphine or whatever it was. Or, no, I forgot what street that was. We're in the 1000 block. How about that? All right, here's a good place. I think it's a good spot to stop with a good light. Look back at the street here. Hug the pole so I'm not taking as much of your space, and get caught up on the fun chats you're all having without me as I'm walking along. Okay. Oh, we got a, looks like another super chat here too. So we last left off with Urban Panic talking about Cafe au lait. Get it from City Park tomorrow. I'll check it out. Thank you. New super chat from Urban Panic. Double digits. Thank you very much. Urban Panic writes, shout out to some Bismarcky, oh baby, you got what I need. We'll get someone to respond. Okay, let me try it. So you don't mean, you mean shout out. Is it, oh baby, you got what I need? Or is it just, oh, you got what I need? If I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna get it right. If we're gonna do it right, I should do, she take my money. Let's see what if I get it. All right, let's see. Some lyrics. Biz Marquee, got what I need. Have you ever met a girl that you tried to date? Okay, let's get to the chorus here. Let's see. You got what I need. Oh, gosh, make me do this. I can't do it while I'm staring somebody in the eyes. All right, here we go. You got what I need. When they say she's just a friend. There's not enough people around here. I'm just going to annoy somebody who lives above here. They probably hear it worse. The other one I do is, she take my money when I'm in need. No, okay. Not happening tonight. I'll try it somewhere else later. Oh, thanks again, Urban Panic. That was a little embarrassing for me. All right, Pete Martin, 6270, double digits, well into double digits. Thank you very much, Pete. Pete writes, walking along New Orleans, I'm thinking about historic districts. Any thoughts, yay or nay? Objective positives or negatives? I mean, a historic district makes sense if it's historic, right? I'm glad that they have all kinds of rules to, prevent Wells Fargo from coming in and saying we're going to build a, 82-story building on this block, right? But I think it's got to genuinely be historic. Just because something's old doesn't mean that it's worth saving. There's a lot of houses that are going to turn 100 years old. The house next door to my childhood home was built in the 70s. The house next door was built someplace else 100 years ago, moved there in the 50s. My brother bought it. And having spent a lot of time in my brother and sister-in-law's house, I can tell you, just because that house is 100 years old doesn't mean it's historic. And even if there was a neighborhood of them, it doesn't mean it's worth saving because they weren't that special. They were just cheap little houses that now are 100 years old. So old in and of itself doesn't make a historic district. But there is something to this. I don't know my New Orleans history to tell you anything useful about this district. But evidently there's something incredibly historic about this district, hence creating a historic district. You know what we accidentally do? We've turned every single family neighborhood into a historic district kind of in a way because it's not allowed to grow up. So if you drive around Hollywood and the San Fernando Valley, west side of LA, those houses sit on unbelievably expensive land and they're not allowed to grow up. I guess they can turn into mansions, but those neighborhoods are going to stay single family neighborhoods forever, almost as if they're historic districts, even though the land underneath those buildings scream in the free market, I'm worth too much to have this junky house sitting on me. And so we should allow redevelopment and allow neighborhoods to grow up and change where they've turned into valuable land, but we don't do that. And so we accidentally create these preservation districts that serve no purpose. Yeah, I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, a historic district's kind of like a school zone, which is fitting because we just walked by one. If you make the whole street a school zone, nobody's going to respect it. And so people are going to speed. Addie. And when they do get to the school, because they've been disrespecting the school zone all over the place because it's overly broad, they're not going to respect it by the school. But if you make the school zone short and potent, you go from 35 miles an hour down to 15 and there's flashing lights and it is short. It's just the area right by the school where the kids are crossing. You can enforce that. You can make them. And I think a historic preservation district is the same way. If they said, because Bourbon Street is important, this entire section of New Orleans, this side of the freeway, is a historic district, it's not going to get respected, I would think, because it's overly broad, and so there's going to be lots of exceptions made and backroom deals to kind of bend the rules to do what the free market really wants done. And because you're breaking rules all over town, on the one street you do want to preserve it, people are going to break the rules and break it. If they say, just Bourbon Street, these blocks is our historic district, I think you can enforce that. Like that short school zone, it's potent, it's enforceable, it stands out. So I don't know if that was your question, Pete, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is all these things serve a purpose. It's just, do we apply them in the right places or the wrong places? Having a freeway over there makes sense, but having a freeway right here would not make sense. Running cable cars or streetcar, through this dense area makes a lot of sense. Building a cable car out in the rural area 100 miles that way would make no sense. And so it's applying none of the tools are bad. It's applying the tools in the right place that make all the difference, I think. But thanks again for your very generous super chat, Pete. And if you have I'll try to keep watching if you have a follow-up on that, because I'm not quite. Oh, Burger Man's talking about burgers again. Mike was asking about wanting to try Bojangles. Burger Man says Shake Shack is all right, but way overpriced. A freaking man. And I'll talk to you about it as we. Oh, Brahms is great. Also talking about Brahms. I put this in my pocket. We'll keep walking. So, the first time I realized fast food was collapsing about 10 years ago, which it definitely has now, was when we. It's before I started Road Guy Rob, actually. I think I was helping a relative move. That's how I used to see the country, was I would volunteer to take time off work without pay to then help drive moving trucks for relatives. And it was fun. That's how I got to see Chicago. And I was there a few days early and stuff. So I borrowed their 1997 Dodge Caravan that worked great, except it overheated, Yeah, this is the middle of the summer in Chicago. And I wanted to find a place with a gluten-free bun, and Shake Shack, I guess, had them. But the closest one, I had to drive from Lake County down into Cook County, the county of Chicago. And their sales tax is over 10%. There's something emotionally wrong with a hamburger being more than $10 at a fast food place. And there's something very wrong about a sales tax exceeding 10%, even though his tax is 9.75, no problem, right? But if you say, let's start going this way and see what we got as we go toward the water here, a few blocks. So if you have a 9.75 sales tax versus 10.25, something breaks in me mentally. Because you see that bill for Shake Shack, which at the time was an astronomical $18, and really wasn't very big portions, I thought, for that kind of money. But the sales tax was like $2 or something. It was more than 10%, and that just mentally made me very unhappy. I blamed it on Cook County. I said, "Oh, stupid county," and how on earth does a county with a sales tax that high have such bad road infrastructure, So I'm used to out west where you have a surcharge, a transportation sales tax that helps pay for, keeping the roads nice and toll-free, and I'm paying all these tolls through Cook and Lake counties, and anyway. But really, as much as I'm blaming Cook County, I should have been blaming Shake Shack. It's delicious, and like you say, Burger Man, it's good, but is it $18 good? Hey, we got a payphone. Look at that. I don't see one of those in public that often. Also got like a cop camera or something. I wonder if that's just a general public safety camera, or if that's one of the ones that people get stressed out about because it's got, the AI facial recognition and all that stuff that probably isn't that big of a deal, but yet at the same time, I think South Park had a good point. Why are we giving some random billionaire access to all of our cop cameras, It just seems a little mildly concerning,
You look like music, walking that down, walk that
I've
way.
got a tour group going on here.
We're trying to get back to where we started, about 7 blocks down.
I should probably listen in. I'd learn something. Oh, the haunted hotel. There's something about an old building in New Orleans. But, I don't believe in haunted things, but what do they say about the haunted hotel? Welcome, the haunted hotel at 623, I'm not going to pronounce that, Ursulines, is New Orleans' oldest and best known haunted hotel. So apparently there's more than one. Built in 1832, the hotel has been home to nearly a dozen murders in the last 200 years. Reports of being haunted initially dated back to 1918, when an infamous serial killer, the Axeman, left a bloody trail through the city, becoming one of the most notorious serial killers of the 20th century. To this day, his identity remains unknown. largely targeting Italian populations. Anyway, well, I'm not Italian, so good luck.
Mr. Parker, can you look at me, sir?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know why this matters, but they got this thing that says Angelo Brocato. They've got an entrance over there that just has that business name on it. But over here it says ladies entrance. And there's got to be a history story on that, but I would have no idea what. Whether that's like I won't say it's a segregation thing or something, but I doubt it. That's interesting. A little bit of New Orleans history here. That every single one of these buildings probably has a pretty in-depth story that could probably fill 10 minutes of casual conversation. And I wonder how much of it gets written down. You get historic groups paying attention to kind of the superstar buildings, but now this looks significant here. Ursulines and Chartres, and I have no idea how to pronounce that. Looks like a big old, looks like a plantation house of sorts. Take a look at my phone as I'm walking here. So it all starts getting so bumpy. Chris Hayes writes, Rob needs a slushie. No, I need to. No, I don't think that would help. All right. Let's see. Let me refresh my chat window here. Chartres, if I can pronounce that right. Good to see we're all talking about burgers. I like burgers. Okay. A lot of this is interesting. I'm so used to modern downtown design that I go, well, one of these blocks, it'll finally open up to like a big clearing with a big, broad, wide boulevard type street. But it's like this dense thing just keeps going block after block. It doesn't wrap up easily. So we're having good discussion about more Shake Shack, Habit Burger, Burger Man. Right, Habit Burger used to be good before the COVID buyout by Yum Brands. Oh no, is that what happened to them? It seemed like I kind of had the same feeling that I just stopped going to Habit Burger, but I'm not entirely sure why. And I think it was they got a little expensive. And yeah, if Yum Brands is operating them, it's going to run into the ground. That's too bad. Yeah, they used to kind of be like a premium in and out. That's what I liked about them. Okay, I am going to stop for a minute and take a look at the map, have a drink of water, and then we'll figure out what we want to do next here. And since we kind of got out to, like I was saying, some kind of a broad street of some kind, where I'm not feeling like I'm in the alleys of the Bourbon Street, French Quarter area, Okay, so when I go to college in Florida, Culver's is also great. I like Culver's. Culver's is good. They don't have it in California, but another place you can get a gluten-free bun. It was funny, Culver's has their concrete mixer. It's kind of like, Dairy Queen had their thing where the milkshake thing was so thick they're supposed to turn it upside down, right? So Culver's, they call it a concrete mixer. It's really frozen and solid. And you have mix-ins. And so I chocolate with a banana in it because I want to be healthy. And of course, the healthy thing to do when I'm having 1,000 calories of sugar is to add in a banana. The fiber is good for me, And something about adding the banana in, I guess, makes it where it doesn't really freeze right anymore, and so it's soupy. But it seemed really soupy, almost like chocolate milk. And so I took it back to the counter and said, hey, I hate to be this guy, but this is, no, it's not like a concrete mixer. It's you know, I didn't drink it with a straw, you know. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, I'll be happy to remake it for you, you know, the teenage kid. So that was really cool. And then I said, you want to dispose of this? He says, well, you can keep it. So I'm like, all right. So I had this chocolate milk thing. And bless his heart, he remixes a new one. Here you go. And he brings it out. Same mistake. It's just as milky. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to complain twice, you know. So but I don't know at Culver's if that's, like I say, a banana thing or if that's just the kid was new and didn't know what he was doing. But anyway, I had my milky concrete mixer there. But people seeing left, and double plus left. Was I supposed to turn left somewhere? So, I don't know. Let me know. DQ Blizzard writes 99 Scott. He says, I've had Habit once and thought it was okay, but not special. Habit, like Burger Man was saying, was better. It's kind of, it just kind of slowly, I wouldn't say it's bad. It's not Taco Bell, you know, but it just kind of, I don't know, I don't get, something subtly, subconsciously just makes me not go there. We're in and out, every time I go, restores value. I feel like, man, that was my digestion system feels happy, I feel full, and I paid $9.68. Great, we're good, you know. So that resets me to want to go again. And it only takes one bad experience to break that chain. Del Taco did it recently. There was some new thing on special, and it was supposed to be, trying to figure out what's going on over there. It's a Chevy Astro van. You don't see those that often. Anyway, what were we talking about? Del Taco. There was something new, it was on special, so I got a couple of them, and like a small fry, and it came out $13. After decades of going to Del Taco as this, like, it's not that good, but it's cheap, they broke it. Taco Bell did the same thing a couple years ago, where they broke that relationship, and I no longer feel it's good value, so I stopped going. And once I stopped going, they miss out on all the future sales. So that little extra profit margin they got by bilking me for $13 on some lame taco deal thing, that's fine. They made their money, but they miss out on all the future sales. I feel like the Habit's kind of doing the same thing. Okay, we got David Kirchkov. I hope I got that right. With the super chat. David Kirchkov, 9078. Honorary double-digit club there. Writes, any thoughts on the current administration relaxing fuel standards for next year? Thoughts on small, affordable cars in America? Yeah, this is a challenging one because you end up with, see what I'm saying? The police department drives a Chevy Spark. Speaking of small cars, when's the last time you saw a cop driving that? I mean, in the French Quarter, that probably makes sense, but you don't see that that often. I mean, you think you get them like a little Prius or something, you know. Anyway, so one of the challenges, I wanted to do a video for a long time on what happened to the small car, because I bought my Honda Fit in fall of 2011, put 350,000 miles on it. But it became clear a year ago that in order for me to continue to do the increasing amount of travel that you're funding for me to go do, to bring stories to you, because remember, I got the 350,000, that was principally giving you stories in California and Utah. As I'm trying to branch out and broaden where you're getting the stories, the car's going to take a lot of abuse. And so I just always assumed that I kind of thought by the year 2020 or by 200,000 miles, I'd just go buy another Honda Fit for the inflation adjusted price. So my $16,000 car would be $20,000, and then I'm good for another 200,000 miles, and I just kind of bake that in as the cost to operate the car. But as it got to 2020, I think the car was probably around $20,000. discontinued the car. Going into COVID, I was really starting to take this job seriously. It wasn't making back then the Patreon would pay for my auto insurance. That's how little it was. And the YouTube ad revenue would pay the taxes on that income. It was so little. The thought of going out and buying even a $20,000 car was completely off the table. And by the time things started to feel a bit more solid in the last year or two, where I could consider buying a car, the Honda Fit's been gone for 5 years. Honda discontinued it. Toyota discontinued the Yaris. Ford discontinued all their cars. They just have SUVs now. So it's a challenge because I don't know what to recommend to anybody other than I think going up one class to the Corolla. And I think that's the only thing left and even then you're probably at more around $25,000 versus 20. And a lot of people on this end are very price sensitive. The fuel economy standards, the way we do them are kind of broken. So they're averages across the entire fleet, and they make an assumption that a pickup truck shouldn't have to meet the same standard as a regular car. And that makes some sense, right? A Ford F-150 is a bigger vehicle and it does more work. But they were so vague in how they defined a pickup truck. All SUVs are considered light trucks and have a lesser standard to meet, even the ones that are based on cars. You buy a Toyota RAV4, it's basically a lifted Toyota Camry with big tires. It's TNGA, it's the same platform, it just rides high. But it meets a much lower fuel economy standard than the Camry has to. So we accidentally made fuel economy standards worse by making them better because all the car makers marketed the heck out of SUVs, persuaded everyone that they got to get an SUV, that buying a car is bad value. And so everybody switched to buying SUVs. We followed the marketing. That's what people want. But you guys like bumping like a podcast or something. I'd do that. Fall up to the light. This is National Public. Hey, you ever seen the movie DC Cab? It was like Bill Maher and Carrie Busey and I can't remember. It wasn't a great movie, but Gary Busey has a scene where he put a bunch of money into his taxi cab and he's screaming at the new cabbie, 1,000 watt amplifier. And so he just blasts this music really loud and it blows out all the glass in his cab, Long time ago, 20 years ago on the internet, somebody took that scene and changed it. And they put National Public Radio's All Things Considered. And so it's that same scene, 1,000 watt amplifier from Washington, D.C. This is National Public Radio. And it blows out all the speakers. Another great story was someone I know took a lot of American Sign Language classes, knows a lot of deaf people. And deaf people enjoy music, they just can't hear it. So when they're driving in the car alone, they'll tune the radio to a music station where they can turn it up really loud, because they're not going to hurt their hearing because they don't have hearing, and turn it up loud where the bass in the car is vibrating the car, and they can, this deaf person's found a station, started jamming to it, and their relative comes, gets in the car, and it's just laughing. They turn the radio down and say signs, what's so funny? And they sign back, you were on the airport information station. You drive into the airport and it'll say like tuned to AM 1300 for airport information. And so they were jamming to what they thought was music, but and I'm not making fun of them, it just is a humorous situation. And so they're jamming really loud, you can hear it outside the car, long-term parking is available at a discount. Short-term parking does not allow overnight parking on the first level. Just blasting that really loudly. Time for a break? No. I appreciate that they do that though. It's made me go to bed a few times. YouTube in bed has cost me so many hours of sleep. So the previous administration, I think I got to go back a few years ago. Some administration agreed to rules that were incredibly strict, that basically are saying passenger cars need to be to like 50 miles a gallon in 5 or 10 more years. And the previous administration, on their way out, didn't really relax the rules, but they opened up a lot of flexibility in the rules to saying, look, we're not going to prescribe that you have to have a certain percentage of electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles or hydrogen vehicles or whatever. Just if you can achieve a certain amount of efficiency across your fleet, however you want to do it, great. That was probably a positive change. I'm not sure how attainable a lot of it was, but if you don't create some ambitious goal for automakers to chase, they won't chase it. I mean, we've seen this where they didn't up the fuel economy standards from basically Reagan to George W. Bush. And I remember going with my dad to the auto show in the mid-aughts, around 2006, 2007. He's walking around looking at the fuel economy. He goes, this is no better than what we had in the 80s, And because automakers were happy, gas prices were relatively consistent based on inflation. But as we got to 2007, 2008, as gas prices were going up, the Bush administration worked to change the rules that then the Obama administration implemented to start increasing fuel economy standards, which simultaneously led to more efficient cars, but it also led to, like we were saying, reclassifying all the vehicles as light trucks so that they could have the easier time, right? And then they continued to increase that. The EV mandate in Europe and in California that said by the year 2035, no more selling internal combustion engine cars. Now, California hasn't relaxed on it yet, but the EU is talking about relaxing on it. And a lot of people are saying, well, good, it was a dumb rule. Was it? Maybe it was, because it was too soon. 2035 is coming up pretty quickly. But if you're General Motors, you're Ford, you're Chrysler, well, we'll keep Chrysler out of it. You're General Motors or Ford, and you know that you are not going to be able to sell cars in California after 2035 unless they're electrified, or in the European Union unless they're EVs. It's a lot easier to go to your board of directors 5 years ago when Tesla's starting to eat your lunch and say, hey, let's go spend billions of dollars on research and development and new assembly lines and tooling to try to develop these cars so that in a future decade we can make money and get a return on our investment. So we're going to lose money on this thing for 10 years. You go to the shareholders with that and they're going to laugh you out of the meeting. But if you go and say, hey, we have to do this because the big mean government's telling us to do it, the shareholders will shrug and go, okay, guess we have to. But you've just saved the company, because as you have global competition with BYD, the Chinese electric car company that's eating everybody's lunch globally, who's going to want to go buy a Ford when they can go buy a BYD for $20,000? Maybe not here in the US where we have tariffs that protect our automakers from BYD, but if Ford and General Motors hadn't done an enormous amount of money, they wouldn't have any electric products to sell at all. By having to comply to the big, mean European government, they're able to get the money to do it. And then at that point, you can slip the deadline. I absolutely guarantee California is going to slip their 2035 deadline. But you wouldn't have had the investment into future transportation had that deadline not been there. The open market needs a push sometimes, and that's exactly what that deadline did. So to get roundabout with all that set up to your question of thoughts on the current administration relaxing fuel standards next year, we don't know what the current administration is actually going to do. That's been part of the problem this past year. And I'm not trying to get political, but I kind of have to. There's so much unknown in business right now because we don't know. The administration does one thing on Monday and a different thing on Friday. And I'm to the point, I don't care if they do the Monday thing or the Friday thing, but commit to it. If you're going to do a serious trade war, commit to it so we can invest in products here. But if he's just going to change his mind later because somebody baked him a delicious cherry pie and he's like, that was a good pie, okay, I'm going to drop your tariff. well, then you're hurting the company that went to all this trouble to invest in stuff in the US because they figured this was for the long haul, not that somebody would feed you a delicious cherry pie and you change your mind and now you've wasted a bunch of money on a plant that no longer is going to make sense because it was assuming that it was operating under a tariff that's no longer there, right? That's just tariffs as an example. And so this administration says they're going to do this with the fuel economy standards. Okay, then commit to it. But the last thing you want is to have that motorcycle's in the bike lane. There's a, you can't see him anymore, but there's a nice buffered bike lane over there. And he just, you couldn't see him because he was behind you, but he just got right in the bike lane. Oh man. All right, that was funny. Where was I? So if you're Chrysler and you're like, cool, they're going to relax the fuel economy standards. We're going to bring back the Hemi Charger or whatever. So they open up a bunch of plants and they're planning to do that. And then in 2026, toward the end of the year, the Department of Transportation changes, issues a new thing and says, never mind, we're going to have the fuel economy standards be this thing. You just need to create consistency for business. Whatever you're committing to, stick with it. And my argument is, it would be one thing if they want to slightly relax the standards a little bit, but it sounds like they want to significantly cut the standards. But cutting the standards doesn't make the car cheaper. So you end up with an inefficient engine that's going to use more fuel. And so I think the price difference on a Toyota hybrid, it's so cheap now, Toyota hybridizes all their things, and they're probably going to stick with it. I don't think they're going to care what the fuel economy standards are, but the Toyota Camry comes only in hybrid now because it was a $1,500 price difference. And you could say, oh, we're going to relax the fuel economy standards, so now the Camry doesn't have to be a hybrid. Okay, so the Camry's $1,500 cheaper because it's less fuel efficient. How long do I have to drive before the gas breaks even of the fuel savings? I think it's some of these cars, it can be just a few years. And if you're talking about significant cuts in fuel economy standards, where you're going from 25 miles a gallon in a pickup back down to 12, your break even on that might be a year. So that doesn't actually make the car cheaper. You're just, you're making the upfront cost a little bit cheaper at the expense of the long-term operational costs. So you have capital costs, operational costs. Capital costs are the big expensive thing I pay up front, the price of the car, and the operational costs to operate the car. You've just passed it on as operational costs. And that's why I'm a little bit annoyed of all leadership in this country, business, Democrats and Republicans, but in particular the current leadership that's in power, is they're all about gimmicks rather than actually addressing underlying cost of living issues that have been plaguing us for 20 years, but especially the last 5 years, rather than actually getting in and trying to address those things. They find gimmicks to just spread the cost out longer. A 50-year mortgage doesn't solve the underlying issue of the house costing $600,000 to begin with. Fuel economy standards isn't going to address the issue that the median car price now is $50,000. It's not going to bring the Honda Fit back. It's just going to mean that $50,000 car I buy is now a $49,000 car, maybe, and it's less efficient and it's going to cost more to operate. So I'm saying, Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative, we're all on the same page here. We need to actually attack problems and show some leadership in solving these problems rather than continuing to sell us gimmicks. Whether it's businesses trying to offer you buy now, pay later. No, the underlying issue is the product was too expensive relative to wages to buy in the first place. Whether it's AI gobbling up all the computer hardware next year, running on their dead-end mission to build a bunch of data centers that'll probably be collecting dust in 10 years. Okay, that's fine. I was planning to upgrade my computer so I can have a better machine to help make videos for you, but now RAM is $500. I can't build a computer because the data center's taking all of it. It's gimmicks. I'm tired of gimmicks. I want actual leadership from Republicans and Democrats. And there isn't a lot of it right now, and I'm disappointed by that. So anyway, enough on that rant. Okay, what we got here? Let's see. So thank again, David. So long story short, I don't think the fuel economy standard changes are going to make a whole lot of difference because automakers are planning long into the future anyway, and the few that do are going to make inefficient vehicles that people shouldn't buy. So, all right, next. Userman says, so true. Yeah, I agree. The habit's not as good as it used to be. No, no, it's kind of you. Thank you very much. Real fake news 2025 for the super chat. Thank you. Exploring symptoms of bad traffic versus actual remedies in Las Vegas. Lots of special interest in Vegas loop safety violations and fake stations. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why. I use an example before we get to talking about the Hyperloop, but there's a reason why California high-speed rail, which is mismanaged and we need to work to improve it, but the state of California is building with that costs so much more than the Brightline one, is because they're not in the same league. Brightline is like an Amtrak train that you sped up, and California high-speed rail is genuine European-style high-speed rail. California high-speed rail, when it gets built, is a genuine solution to a problem California has, which is being able to connect all the metropolitan areas and their local transit systems together so it becomes a statewide network. In the same way a century ago they built out the California freeway and expressway system to tie all the local road networks together. It's something that allows a lot of new development and economic opportunity in downtown areas that are underused, where downtown Fresno could become a really crowded, built up place because it's next to a train station, because it's commutable now. You can go travel to other places and not have to use a car. But you still can because the freeway network's still there. It's a solution, but real solutions are painful and they're expensive and they hurt and they take decades, and there's a lot of, you don't get an immediate benefit out of it. We're building a system that my niece will enjoy. I'll be pretty old by the time it's built, right? But future generations are going to love it. You know, the Golden Gate Bridge was painful. The California highway system was painful. Brightline is something they're hoping they can do fast and cheap. That's still good, but it's not going to hold up in the same way something expensive and powerful is. And so when you talk about Las Vegas transit, a Hyperloop is quick and cheap, and they're just hoping it just magically solves their problems. But you're probably right. It's probably a gimmick. I have not ridden it, but there's a guy named Ray who has a channel called City Nerd, and having watched his video, I'm not terribly impressed with when he wrote it. He was vicious about it. I'm a little more judicious in criticizing it because I would like to see it succeed. But running a Tesla Model S in a little tiny tunnel underground is not a mass transit system. Because what's your maximum ridership on that? And what's your ratio of operators, because they still have a human driving it, operators to passengers is 1 to 3. Like a bus, you can at least 1 to 10, 1 to 20, you know. A train, you have 1 or 2 to a couple hundred, you know. Las Vegas' solution is to build a real mass transit system, light rail system out. And that's going to cost billions. It's going to probably require an additional tax. It's probably going to require maybe some kind of tourism tax. It's going to require going to Washington and fighting for federal grants. And that's painful. That's, you know, versus Elon Musk magically showing up with magic money and just building a magical tunnel in the ground and thinking that'll solve the problem. I'm afraid they're going to be very disappointed. They're going to end up with a half-finished tunnel. He's going to get bored. He'll move on. And they'll be stuck with something that people will laugh at, you know. It's maybe it can be retrofitted into something in the future, but probably not. It's probably not built to a spec that's usable as a rail tunnel, you know, because cars are kind of short, you know. I question, and I've always wondered too, what are the standards of emergency exits, you know, in a tunnel? Fire suppression, ventilation, you know. We're kind of at a point where, and I think AI companies are kind of this, there's rules AI companies are breaking. Copyright. I know there's the saying, I'm guilty of this, that if I plagiarize from one source and don't cite my source, I'm a plagiarist. 2 sources, I'm a plagiarist. 3 sources, I'm a plagiarist. But you start to get to 5 or 10 or 20. Now you're no longer a plagiarist. You're a hell of a researcher. I'm going to stop and get some water here. You're no longer a plagiarist. You're a hell of a researcher. And so I try to cite my source, or, you know, be a heck of a researcher and cite lots of sources. But AI didn't do that. OpenAI still doesn't seem to cite its source. Gemini seem to be pretty good at it. And so they trained, especially the generative AI stuff, is trained on a bunch of copyrighted material that would be a tort case, except because they stole all the material, they'll never be able to go after them. You know, they're a hell of a researcher. They got away with it. And so I think there's this attitude amongst tech companies right now that it's a bit of a Wild West, and you can just kind of do whatever you want, and you'll get away with it because you're a giant tech company. You'll get a subsidy. It'll be great, you know. And this is not partisan politics. This is just an observation of just the world we're in. If Kamala Harris were president right now, I don't think it'd be any different. It's a problem. It might be a little different, but at the end of the day, these tech companies would still be stealing everybody's material. And so because there's this sort of bipartisan understanding that tech companies can do whatever they want, it's, I think, leaked into Clark County, and no Clark County politician, Republican or Democrat, wants to stand up to the Boring Company, to Elon Musk, and say, you're scamming us. Now, for legal reasons, I'm not saying he's scamming them, but I'm saying I could see that if a politician were honest with themselves, some may feel that way. And at least needs to be said, some need to say, hey, wait a minute, are you building this tunnel to proper tunnel building standards? Are you building a tunnel that if you walk away from the project, we could use for something else? Nobody questions anything. They just let him build whatever he wants. And I think that's detrimental to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau, who I think have dumped a bunch of money into this. I don't think they're going to get their money back. And it's not even like the Boring Company needs the money. It's just a toy for a rich person. They think it's neat. You know, and he's going to be neat with somebody else's money. Great. I'm saying let him be neat. If he wants to do neat projects, let him spend his own money. But anyway. But yeah, to answer your question, RFN, I'd say I want to see the project succeed, and I'm hopeful that if they're going to stick with it, it turns out and it ends up being something good and beneficial. Maybe next time I get to Las Vegas, I'll try riding it so I can be objective and fair. But from what I've seen, running cars in an underground tunnel is not a mass transit system. It's a toy. You know, even my solution's a toy. My solution is to expand out the monorail. But let's be honest, that's still a toy. I think it's a little bit better. It's automated, you know, it's scalable. But perhaps the right answer is to run a legit light rail system, which right now Clark County residents and politicians don't seem interested in funding. So and then add in Las Vegas is in a little bit of a soft death spiral at the moment. I think they'll bounce out of it, but at the moment, there's a lot to be concerned about. That I don't think they're going to have good growth years the next few years. I think they'll be profitable, but the number of people going to Vegas are going to dropped quite badly this year. And I think as the economy softens, quite likely. That's going to continue because it's not good value. Like we were talking with fast food earlier, the Las Vegas experience is quite poor, and the deals are gone, and people know it, and they're not going. And so that means fewer people commuting to work on the Strip. It means higher unemployment for Clark County, and it means projects like a serious mass transit system focused on getting employees to work on the Strip and helping the tourists get to and from the airport is probably not going to happen soon, because that's something you do when you're growing, not something you're doing when you're struggling. Average Joe Jesse writes, RGR political rants are always welcome. Well, as long as they don't become partisan rants. There is way too much partisan rants. Again, it doesn't mean that both sides are equal. They have their problems in different proportionality, and there are definitely things Democrats are better at than Republicans, and things that Republicans are better at than Democrats, and there's a lot of things they're both quite bad at. But at the end of the day, like, I'm tired of feeling like a bunch of rich people, and I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, I just think it just kind of happens, a bunch of rich people, to make their media empire make money, pit us against each other, not even for some like deep political reason. They just want to do it because it's good for ratings and it makes their network make money. Right now, CBS is following in that model of Fox News of saying, hey, let's have a network where we, instead of telling the news from the middle, let's pit liberals and conservatives against each other on the network. The new news chief wants to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean CBS is turning into a conservative network. It just means CBS is going to be more obnoxious because they're leaning into this, let's bump up the ratings by having people fight all the time. And I'm tired of that. Because I've filmed stories in San Francisco and I filmed stories in Tennessee this summer. And I tell you, you can take people in rural Tennessee and put them in San Francisco and have them live there for a year, and take people from San Francisco and have them live in rural Tennessee for a year, and they still want the same things, and they're probably going to live similar lives a lot more than we're being told that. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of constantly feeling like it's okay to be mad at politicians. It's okay to be mad at things. You can be conservative and think the president's dumb, and you can be liberal and not like Joe Biden, and like, it's okay. This isn't a team sport. It's good to criticize people in power, even especially the person on your team, you know. But I'm tired of us treating this like it's ESPN and we're playing football all the time, because the stadium is winning. They're making money off of us with the snacks and the hot dogs and the parking. Well, we're out there on the gridiron duking it out. For what? You know, for it to get better, we got to fix the stadium, and that's a team effort, man. You know. Anyway, so there you go, political rants. Jaylee 319 with the super chat. Hi from Rhode Island. Well, hello, Jaylee. Good to see you. I have not been to Rhode Island. I've been to Connecticut. I like Connecticut. I like Connecticut more than I was supposed to. I even like Connecticut more than I was supposed to in January. And I hate the snow, and it snowed. It snowed, but I haven't been to Rhode Island. I imagine I'm sure it's better than Family Guy. Yeah, that's my exposure to Rhode Island is the fictional town of Quahog. But I'm picturing it being very similar to Connecticut. I like that whole area. My people were Mayflower people, and my grandmother's passed away, but she was from Lexington, Massachusetts. So that area is kind of amongst my homes. I'm definitely a rep the West kind of guy. I like the dry weather of the deserts out west, but that area of Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, very nice. So thanks again. All right, where are we? Let's see, we have a good talk about Road Guy Rob for Prime Minister. No, thank you. I'm not sure which one you want me for, but look, I listen to a lot of British talk radio, as I mentioned before, because American talk radio is exhausting. I will gladly take our really messed up American politics over the British politics right now. The Canadian stuff seems like it's chilled out. It's kind of been okay. The Albertans have not been so noisy as they were a couple years ago. But the Brits are going to have fun because it sounds like it looked like the Labour Party did well, but the Labour Party didn't do well. Both the Labour Party and the Conservative and the Tories did very badly. And the Reform UK people did okay. The problem is the Reform UK people have, what's his face? Goofball as their leader. He's going to be the next prime minister, and it's going to be a disaster. So I don't want that. What's his name? He's the guy who got the UK to leave the EU, and he like walk around and his socks were British flags, and he was a presenter on LBC. He had a talk show. That's how I knew of him. Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage was on LBC as his talk radio show, and is very much like, oh, the Europeans are screwing us. We need to be proud Brits and take our sovereignty back. And so they did, and then like a bunch of British businesses went out of business. So I don't want to be Prime Minister of Great Britain. I'll leave that to somebody else. I don't want to get in the middle of that. But I appreciate the sentiment. Let's see, what else we got here? Peter Martin with a very generous super chat. Speak. I'd like to speak, sure. Thank you. Oh yeah, people talking about Nigel Farage. I mean, Boris is a goofball because Boris is actually quite clever and smart. He just plays a goofball because it wins over voters. Nigel Farage is genuinely a nut. Like, he is very passionately that the UK should just basically cut themselves off from Europe and just be their own thing totally. And it's like, I don't know, I as an American, I'm actually honored by the EU's existence, because it's kind of like they got together and said, hey, we need to become the United States of Europe. And I don't mean that as an insult to Europeans, but I'm saying they saw how the United States is like 50 little countries that have totally open borders and free trade. And when we're not being silly, we can do some amazing things in this country because you travel over state lines all the time. And so being able to have that on the continent is amazing, because you can do business between France and Germany and Spain and the Netherlands seamlessly. Common currency, common trade agreement, you know. And the British were kind of in a sweet deal where they could kind of like have one toe in and one toe out, be kind of sovereign, and at the same time participate. And what did Nigel Farage do? He took this like kind of sweet deal they had and blew it up. The British eventually are going to have to rejoin the EU 50 years from now, but it's not going to be as sweet of a deal as they had before. So they have real fun with him as the Prime Minister. All right, did I get all the super chats? We ought to keep walking here. Now let me see how the battery on the phone's doing. It is 22%, so we can keep it going for a little bit. Let me finish my water here. And the UK joining the EU is probably a bad idea. Certainly sucked for the rest of those in the Commonwealth Trade Zone. Whatever they called it. Leaving was a worse one. One of the only criticisms I ever heard that kind of made sense, it doesn't defend Nigel Farage, but was the people in the 1970s who voted to start the process to join a future European Union. It was kind of sold as, oh, it's just like a little trade deal, it's not a big deal. And some of those older voters who remembered that felt like they kind of got tricked into joining the EU. And so the leave versus remain vote, they voted leave as kind of a way of getting back at politicians 50 years before or 40 years before that they felt had been kind of dishonest with them. Is that what the heck is that? French Quarter Patrol. And it has the word patrol. I'm starting to wonder if that's just like vigilantes. You know, it's not actual New Orleans PD. It would be funny if it is, because the officers who are very senior get to drive the Chevy Spark, and the new officers have to drive the Gator car that went by. Anyways. Burgerman asks about Nigel Farage. You see the UK version of Alex Jones? Not at all. Alex Jones is special. I don't know if he actually believes in his stuff, but he's like legit out to lunch. Nigel Farage is just somebody who's outdated. I think he's advocating for a Britain that hasn't existed in half a century or more. and wants to go back to a world where Britain is more isolated and independent. But he's very charismatic about it. Like, if you or me sat down and had lunch with Nigel Farage, as nutty, and as going into it going, this guy's a nut, but one-on-one, he would be so charismatic that by the end of the lunch, we'd be like, well, people give him a hard time. He's all right. I might still disagree with him, but Nigel's all right. But the trouble is because he's so outgoing and so charismatic and goofy and kind of likable, and also simultaneously obnoxious, the charisma or anti-charisma or whatever it is allows him to push and advocate for policies that sound good up front, but in the back end are very hurtful. And so he went around with this bus all over the country saying, if we leave the European Union, he had this magic number of like $300 billion a year leaves the UK to support the EU. But what he didn't take into account is the amount of money, assuming his number was correct, the amount of benefit Brits got back from being part of the single economy with having frictionless trade. And so it sounded good. He got a lot of people to vote for it. And he's very charismatic about it. And I think he actually believes it. I think he actually believes that he was making Britain a better place. But he was wrong. And so I wouldn't say he's Alex Jones. He's kind of his own thing. Brickatect, good to see you again. Brickatect 420 writes, with a double-digit super chat, by the way. The infrastructure we need to have passenger rail and bike highways across the country as good as our highways are. Flying sucks and driving is stressful. The Phoenix Council defied voter will to expand light rail transit. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because we put all our eggs in the flying basket, and in fairness, trying to do rail transportation across the country gets a little spread out in the West because you kind of want the destinations close together. That's why it works so well in Europe. It's just geographically great for rail. That if you're going from Phoenix to pretty much anywhere but LA or maybe Albuquerque, you're gonna, you know what I mean? Flying to Salt Lake City, flying to San Francisco, flying to Miami, it just works so quickly that as much as air travel can suck, it just kind of outperforms everything, and the infrastructure is already in place. So it's cheaper to just kind of keep dumping money into the thing we have than it is to spend the billions of dollars to build out a network. So that's what's so exciting about something like California high-speed rail, or the upgrades to Amtrak's Acela in the Northeast, or even the private sector stuff that has a lot of public subsidy down in Florida with Brightline. It's because we're playing with what can we do, and as we start getting regional networks up and going, then it might be easier to make the case of, even if it's not high speed, maybe we should run an Amtrak route that connects this regional rail network with this one. You know, so it gives you more of a destination to be able to actually have something at the end point, versus right now, you could run rail out of Phoenix, but it's like, partly we don't have a ton of Amtrak service in and out of Phoenix, is it's slow to get there, and then once you get there, where do you go? You know, as far as in town running light rail, one of the challenges, it's okay. You have the light rail train that goes up to where the Metro Center Mall used to be that they knocked down, and they'll probably do some significant development there. But is the city of Phoenix, and more importantly, the residents who vote the public officials in, prepared to allow a loosening of the zoning rules near all the stations to allow the free market to build the kind of development near those stations that those stations would warrant, so you can actually get value out of your rail system? If you just have light rail running through a bunch of single family neighborhoods, you're just never going to have enough riders to build up to justify the system. So at that point, just put the money into the freeways. You know, if you're going to commit to land use that requires a freeway, then just build a freeway. But if you want to build out a light rail system, which I think Phoenix should do, the cities also need to commit to the land use changes near the stations. And so I've kind of argued at the state level, because all the power that exists in Arizona is delegated by the U.S. Constitution to the state of Arizona, and then Arizona, the legislature through law, delegates that power out to all the cities and agencies. But so the legislature could claim it back and say, hey, anytime we're putting state money into any transit project, your density limits are gone near that station. And that may make it harder to get the projects built, but when the money does get spent to build the projects, it will result in you actually being able to add some value to that project versus just continuing to run light rail everywhere in low density suburbs. There's no point to that, you know. Let's see what else you said here. Phoenix Council defied voters' will to expand light rail. Yeah, and I don't know the history of what happened there. I do know a lot of the money comes from Maricopa County's sales tax, the one they passed in '85, renewed in 2005, and then I think in 2024. And it was funny, it was, I think, Prop 300, Prop 400, and then this time it was like Prop 469 or something. It wasn't quite Prop 500. But what that does is that extends the freeway tax to build the new freeway that'll parallel I-10 west of the downtown. I think that'll be the 30 freeway. I forget what the number is. And I think it's also pushing a freeway out past the Mesa Gateway Airport a little ways. But a percentage of it is going to also fund transit projects. And so that, over the 20-year lifespan of the tax, I'm sure is probably scheduled to help fund some light rail projects, but I'm not familiar what they are. And so it's even less so much maybe the city council defying the voters if the voters didn't want the transit. It could also be, this money is programmed, use it or lose it. And a wise city council would probably say, yeah, we better use it, because otherwise billions of dollars evaporate and get spent in other cities. You know, Phoenix residents paid those sales taxes. A certain percentage has to go to transit projects. You might as well use it, otherwise it's gone. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, let's, I think I'm caught up, so let's keep walking. I wanted to go this way a little bit. Let me look on a map and see how close we're getting. Are the levees something that you can see from where we're at? So I think we're real close. I think it's like right here. I think there's train tracks and things. So I don't know that. French Quarter Riverwalk. Let's see if we can get over to that. So to do that, I walk down to a crosswalk. I'm going to come out here. We're going to find that crosswalk, and let's see if we can find that French Quarter Riverwalk here. Oh, but before I put my phone in my pocket, Slav 007 with Canadian cash gives a thumbs up super chat. Well, thank you very much. Okay, let's go see what we got going on here. So they got a big wall, like almost like a mural thing going on here. And on the other side of it, I think we're getting close to, because as you know, as we all know, those of us who remember Hurricane Katrina, we're below sea level a little bit right now. And so there was a period of time 20 years ago where this would have all been underwater. That's one of the flaws of a city like this. And particularly if some of the more dire predictions of climate change do come around, later in the century, we may have some real problems of trying to protect this city from getting reclaimed by the Gulf of Mexico, which really wants to eat this neighborhood because it's below sea level, and it's just kind of what Bernoulli's principle does. Okay, so it's like a Amtrak parking lot up here. You got a stop for 49 Riverfront. You have some freight cars, but supposedly over this way, as we walk back toward the city, there's some kind of a thing that said Riverwalk. So I'm curious to see what that is. I have, as I mentioned at the beginning, of this live stream, I wasn't intending to do a New Orleans live stream. It just kind of happened. It was a happy accident. And, you know, I figured, well, if I'm going to come see New Orleans, you should come too. But before I do a live stream, I like to do a little bit of research to know something to talk to you about. And so I'm just going off my little itty bitty bit of limited knowledge of New Orleans, mostly from watching hurricane coverage of Hurricane Katrina 20 years ago. So all I know is that the water is higher than the city. Hey, look, it's an NFT. So if I make an NFT of that NFT, can I sell it and pay for my trip? You got a little bus stop over here. So it looks like a crosswalk that goes over the freight tracks here. You've got some type of a little walk symbol there. So I'm assuming it's like a railroad crossing. Probably don't let me know if a train's coming through here. But I've never seen a little Walkman like that before. I'll stop and take a look at that here. So railroad crossing, 3 tracks, the same type of a sign that you'd use for an automobile. But below it, it's actually reflecting weird on the camera. I don't know if you see it upside down, floating in the air, but that's a weird optical effect of my phone if you are seeing it. But anyway, it's a little Walkman, but something about the way it's lighting up. They've done a good job here making it like artificial brickwork or whatever, pavers. So crossing the tracks tend to work pretty well where it's not a tripping hazard. Because they have to think about ADA. You know, you come here to the Riverwalk here, you've got steps, but they also have to add the ramp over here. And ADA is something you think about with buildings. We think about it with curbs, the stoplight. But, you know, ADA, I guess it applies to crossing the railroad track too. So, now this is interesting. I think I was expecting the water level, if you can see it, is a bit, you have to go back down. And I don't know if I was expecting it to be like the Netherlands. I've never been to the Netherlands, but I assumed that those dikes, the water was almost up to the top. And so I thought there would be a stark look of seeing the water level here from the Gulf being significantly higher, you know, like noticeably higher than the town over there, and saying, oh yeah, wow, it's such a big difference. But the truth is, it's if somebody hadn't told me that the city sits below ocean level, I just would have assumed that all of this ground sat above it. So this levee that we're standing on, I don't know, it's not as gigantic as, you know, it's kind of humbling in a way to see a levee like this, because when they talk about the levees failing, I picture, I don't know, like a giant concrete dam like you'd see in the West failing. You know, but really it's just it's a berm. It's a berm that they have a walkway on top of. And how humbling it is that even if you had just a little tiny bit, if I came in here with an excavator and just dug a little trench through this berm, I'd flood out the whole town eventually, just because of, I believe that's Bernoulli's principle in you know, the water wants to fill itself. I'm trying to get caught back up with the live here so I can see myself, make sure I'm standing where I need to be on this walkway here. But okay, let's see. What did I miss while I was walking? Oh, quite a bit. Okay, so we last left off Slob 007 with his with his Canadian cash. So thank you very much. Brickatech back again here, writes with a double-digit super chat. It's nasty because of the city voting in favor of expansion 4 times since 2000. They keep trying to delay. I personally watch the Republican bully other members on the fence into voting to delay. So it sounds like then the city council has been very, and I'm trying to think through if ADOT wanted to do a major freeway, what role would the city have if, let's say, the voters voted to build a new freeway through Phoenix and the city council was politically against it? Let's flip it around, say they were Democrats and they were against it. Democrats actually are not against freeways, but let's say, kind of like Portland. What role would a city council have to drag out and delay a freeway that the voters want, but they have decided they don't want, and so they're using their elected authority to stop it? And versus, just using that as a thought exercise. And I'm trying to think, but I don't know. There must be a pretty significant contingent of people. Let's walk and talk. There must be a significant contingent of people who elected officials who keep holding it up, So when you have it as a referendum, people like it, but for some reason when they go vote their elected official, they keep electing people who are going against the referendum. That's kind of interesting. It's really too bad that it becomes a partisan thing where they feel that for some reason the light rail train would more or less threaten. It makes them feel threatened. Whether, I don't know if they would like that Prop, whatever it is, 469 money or whatever, to 100% go to roads like it did in 1985, or, so they feel like the transit money is sort of a waste that's attached to the tax. But if the tax is already happening, having your city fight against it seems a bit foolish, because you'd want to, it seemed like you'd want to have that money come back to your city, even if it's not quite in a form you want, It's why cities built all the freeways back in the 1950s and 60s, is the federal government was going to spend this money anyway. Do you want it in your city or don't you? And if you don't, then you're taking federal taxes that your residents are paying and basically saying no thank you to reclaiming it and have it come back to your state. You're having all the responsibility and getting none of the benefit. And so the prop, and I'm sure I'm getting the prop number wrong, but Prop 469, Phoenix residents are paying all this sales tax, and then the council are saying, no thanks, don't spend that money that our residents paid in our city. And so, I don't know, it seems kind of odd to me, but see over here, you have some Christmas decorations here, celebrating something called Jack's Beer, home of Jack's Beer, and then there's a Christmas tree. See a car over there all lit up blue. It's hard to know, is that a cop car or is it just somebody being celebratory with like really good ground lights? I've got mixed feelings about cops decking their car out like that, because to me maybe it's just I'm getting old, but it looks a little unprofessional. It's not something I'd run up to and go like, oh yeah, that's a police car. I see it and I just see somebody's added goofy looking blue lights to their car. But this is my first time experiencing the Gulf here. You don't get the big waves like you get on the ocean, but it's not, I don't know, somebody had told me the Gulf was kind of gross, but actually I think it looks really pretty. Okay, so we're back down to road tracks. A big Christmas tree here. Weather's starting to cool down quite a bit. I can't complain because it's, much nicer than it would be in most of the well, frankly, most of the northern hemisphere right now. Whoa! Almost ate it for an e-bike. But still, it's starting to get a little chilly. And being right on the Gulf, it's kind of cold. They've done a good job decorating this thing, though. And I wish I knew my New Orleans history to know what this thing is. It's a beautiful, beautiful old building here, but I plead ignorance. Okay, I think a nice, pretty place to stop for a second. And I am gonna, normally in California it's hot, so I gotta take my sleeves and actually roll them down because I'm cold. That's one problem with a costume like this, is it's designed for moderate weather. So if I'm filming somewhere that's hot and humid, the undershirt and multiple layers just kills me. But then I remember filming in Connecticut and it was 20 degrees. But in my costume, I haven't figured out a coat version of it, because I'd like to, if I cover up the green shirt with a coat, it just doesn't quite look right. So I need to find a coat that's like this color. So in Connecticut, I got the car really warm, and then I ran out in 20-degree weather, and I taped my stand-up about the Merritt Parkway, and then I ran back to the car, and then I'd run back out, and I tape it, the next one again, and I run back in. So it was really weird, because it looked like it was just a moderate, pleasant day, but really it was like 20 degrees. You can almost see my breath in the shot if you go back to that video, because I'm too dumb to figure out how to dress warmly, like a sensible person. Okay, let's see what we got here. So let's see, next is Bennett. Another super chat. Bennett writes, any fun stories from your Greenville trip? Sure there are, and you were there for them. Yeah, Greenville, what comes to mind? I'm trying to think if there were any that you weren't there for. Supposedly the hotel I stayed at was very strange. It was like you entered on the ground floor, but then in the parking lot, it was the second floor, but then because of the hill, the pool area was off the third floor. And I was talking to the woman at the desk about it, and she claimed they, in the 90s, added a fourth floor to the hotel. And I don't know, it was very, very odd. And I noticed that nowhere in the South have hot tubs. And it made sense on that trip because it was so hot and humid and terrible when I was there. But this time of year, like where I'm staying out in the suburbs here, I thought, oh, one of the only downside of coming and doing a live stream for you is by the time I get back to the hotel, it'll be late and the hot tub will be closed. No hot tub. Do hot tubs just not exist in the Southeast? Just not a thing. But that's not really a fun story. That was just an observation. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. What else happened in a Greenville trip? On the video that came out this month, you'll notice when I'm filming around, most of the shots in other places I had filmed earlier in the week. I could get the lighting to look decent. But the lighting looks a little bit off on some of the shots where I'm in the park with the waterfall. And it's because I'd written the script of exactly the shots I needed to record in that park that were critical for telling the story. And it was my last day there. And I'm like, mission accomplished, I've taped everything. So I got in my car, I was heading down to Atlanta. So I thought, I'm a fan of House of Cards, so I'm gonna drive out to Gaffney and see the Peachoid, and I took pictures with that. I included it in the video. I went to BMW and did the tour that lasts about 30 seconds, where they have about 5 cars to look at. It was cool. You see the little BMW Isetta, the little tiny car with the front door, But it was hardly worth driving all the way out to Spartanburg to see. Excuse me. But But I'm driving back past Greenville on my way to Atlanta, and I had this gnawing feeling that I forgot something. And it dawned on me just before golden hour as we're heading into sunset. Oh no, I forgot to tape all the stand-ups for, which would have been fine, except I think the next day I was going down to Atlanta to talk to the traffic reporters. I was out of time. So and there's not, as we talk about in the story, there's not amazing freeway access into downtown Greenville. It's by design supposed to transition you from 385 onto city streets, and you kind of slow down more and more and more. And I'm trying to LA it. I'm trying to go really fast into downtown because I'm fighting the sunset. I race and I park I got a spot on the street. Unbelievable, and I ran down to the park, and I'm out of breath, and I'm trying to hurry and run out into the water and be as close to the water as I can and set my tripod up to not fall in the water and everything, trying to hurry and get the shots and beat the sunset. And so some of the earlier takes don't look too bad, but as you kind of watch some of the takes, if you look at the color, compare the color of the orange on my shirt or my vest to other scenes, and like my face is kind of grayed out and doesn't quite look right, and everything has a little tint to it. That's because with enormous color correcting, I was able to make these shots that were really way too dark because I waited until the last minute. I kind of made them work, but I'm not an artist of knowing how to do all this. What is going on with all the cops down here? There's another one, unless that's just a security guard. You had somebody with blue lights, which I would imply it's an actual cop. And then you got over there, Mr. Ground Effects. Well, we got our party bus. There's our party bus. 504-656-5601 if you want to book your party bus in an old school bus. That's great. I think a town like this, there are towns that you can go to Boston by yourself. You can probably go to New York by yourself. Certainly go to Salt Lake City or Denver by yourself. But Vegas, having gone often by myself, is really a town you go with friends. That's what makes it fun, And this feels like a town you go with friends, because it would be pretty lame to get on that party bus by myself. But take a couple of friends, especially friends who drink a little bit, I think they'd probably have a good time. Old school buses blasting music. Thanks, Bennett. Arthur writes, what city or metro area do you think has the most balanced transportation system? Balance between cars and freeways versus transit, walking, and biking.
How you doing?
Good. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Just chatting with some friends.
Are you streaming?
Yeah, just a few of my friends.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. You want to say hi? No?
Hey!
Y'all have a good night. That's interesting, because trying to think through like a balanced transportation, because there's a lot of them that are balanced very badly. So what you're kind of asking is there a metro area where they have both good freeway systems and arterial street grids with also a good transit system? And I'm trying to think, because I know both Denver and Salt Lake City have some really good. Denver's freeway system isn't quite as good, I'd say, as Salt Lake City, just because they haven't spent the money on it. They have a lot of rules about needing a 2/3 vote to raise taxes, and so they've struggled to raise transportation taxes to make the upgrades to the freeways, where Utah, the legislature can just, is that a party bus? Or is that a regular bus? You know what? Earlier in the stream, there was a yellow school bus that made a goofball left turn. And I was really laughing at that. Excuse me. I was really laughing at that because the thought of a school bus doing that, but I think it was a party bus that just happened to be painted yellow. Because I realized looking at that school bus, it had some bumping music, tinted windows, and I'm going, that's a party bus. Anyway, so Denver's freeway system's not quite as good as Salt Lake. I mean, Salt Lake's got a balance, but I wouldn't call it a really good, like it's got a significant amount of rail transit, but it's not a metro area where you say, oh yeah, you can live in Salt Lake without a car. Like you still kind of need one. Portland has a decent rail system in parts of the town, but there's a lot of the suburbs that's not very good. And the freeway system, a lot of it's very outdated. They have not spent the money trying to modernize the freeway system. And if you drive I-5 south of downtown Portland, it's Phoenix doesn't have the rail. LA is just so far behind on transit that, and a lot of LA County, a lot of the freeway system's outdated. San Diego doesn't have a ton of rail. It's got the trolley, but which is funny. You hear of the San Diego trolley and you picture it being like here, like the little trolley cars. But that's just what they call their very advanced, very expensive light rail system. A lot of it's elevated on modern, it's a very modern, fancy light rail system, but they call it the trolley. And I've spent time in Seattle. Texas towns aren't going to have the transit, so I ruled them out. Albuquerque has no transit. Working our way back east. Kansas City, I don't remember, does Kansas City even have light rail? St. Louis has light rail, but the freeway system's kind of old. Chicago's got quite a bit of both. It's and especially if you're in Cook County, but it's kind of a bad balance because I wouldn't exactly say what is theirs? MARTA or SEPTA? I'm trying to remember MARTA's Atlanta, SEPTA's Philly. Oh shoot, what's the Chicago one called? I'm sure you're typing it away right now. But anyway, the Chicago commuter rail, Metra. This is 10 years ago, but they were still coming around with paper tickets and like punching them like it was an old Disney cartoon from a century ago. And so, it was fine. In the freeway systems, how do toll roads have potholes? I don't know. A lot of the freeway felt very antiquated, but it was a balance, like commuting into Chicago by toll road or by, we got our little streetcar coming by. Here, check this out. Yeah. There it comes. He's gonna go through the ding-ding gates here. I'm sure he really slows down. He's going just crawl speed through the, then picks the speed back up. I actually think this town here, New Orleans, thought crossed my mind as I was coming here tonight, would be the perfect town where you could balance. So they've got a decent freeway network built out, but you have a pretty dense city, like I'm out in the suburbs in, however you pronounce it, Metairie, and my hotel is still, it's a chain hotel. That's why I stayed there. They're like, oh, free parking. It's got free parking, but it's in a garage. It's 5-story, the hotel's 5 stories tall. It's on a postage stamp lot, shoved right up against the highway, and right against like a freeway type thing. And there's so much density. You got density already here. You've got containment, where geographically any growth that happens in this area has to go up because it can't go out. This town would make a lot of sense to build out that balanced transportation system you're saying, because the truth is, if there was a good light rail system, I probably would have just taken it over here tonight. One of the challenges you have with, like, let's say Dallas-Fort Worth, is you could build out, hey, there's a rat. Hey, buddy. My kitty friend would say hi. Oh, he ran away. Shoot, there he is. I've got a kitty back home. Not my kitty, but kitty at my parents' house. Who'd have a lot of fun playing with you. Yeah, there he goes. Kind of a real low-res potato version, but anyway, he got real close to me. I think he's out looking for food. But you get Dallas-Fort Worth, who there's no containment. And so you try to build out DART. You try to say, hey, we're going to have a lot more development. And Dallas is a valuable place. You see a lot of stuff, building up along the freeways. Those apartment complexes where they build a giant parking garage and then kind of wrap around, the apartments or stick frame construction kind of wrapped around the parking garage. But, trying to get everybody onto DART, the more you build DART out, the more the city sprawls out, and then you got to build DART out even more, and then you never just sort of have that containment to try to push things up. But here is perfect because there's nowhere to go. You've got now maybe there are some people stressed out about, do we spend billions of dollars building out a regional light rail system on a town that a century from now could be underwater? That's a valid question, but I don't know. Anyway, it's an interesting question. And then back east, I just don't know the cities that well. I haven't spent a lot of time, I do know you get a lot more in New York and Boston and people commuting. The Bay Area, well, if you're along the BART line, you have some pretty good BART ridership. I was impressed at how easy it was to get into San Francisco on BART, but it's also easy to get into San Francisco by car. So, I don't know, for the West, I'd probably say, to answer your question, a good balance might be BART. It's a fun thought exercise. I don't know. It's a good question. All right, where are we at here? Is it time to take a break? You know the answer. No. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Oh, I see some sneak peeks of some things that are going to be fun to talk about here. Let's see. Chris Hayes says, I'll give you $5 for your NFT. Well, thank you. That sign, go back, screen grab it. It is forever yours. I don't know how to put it in the blockchain, but it's all yours. Let's see. Hi, folks.
The Sunset Limited tomorrow.
What's the Sunset Limited?
The Amtrak.
The Amtrak? Y'all want to talk about it with my friends?
Well,
You guys took
a little bit about it.
You guys took so you
We don't know much about it though. We were hoping that you look like you're an expert about it.
No, I've ridden Amtrak twice. It's nice. So where's the Sunset Limited? Where does it go?
It goes from here, New Orleans, all the way to Los Angeles.
Oh, you're taking it out to LA. Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's look on the map and see where it goes.
It goes through Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and...
Well, granted, I just didn't know where in those states. I figured it wasn't going to go up to Chicago and back down. What's the occasion? What takes you guys on Amtrak?
We wanted to do a vacation. We're from North Carolina. She's never been west of Tennessee.
Never been west of Tennessee?
On a nice trip, relaxing. Not a road trip, but more of a
Amtrak trip. So Amtrak is... Amtrak, they're great.
It's
they're
like
great.
Interstate.
Yeah, that doesn't say train. That says car.
So we should have done a road trip.
Yeah, that's okay. Amtrak, they
drink and drive.
So that's true. No, definitely don't drink and drive. Although I saw somebody doing it on Bourbon Street and driving.
That sounds not real.
Yeah. Well, he had his bottle as he's driving down not on Bourbon Street, but across it.
The first person to ever see that.
Yeah. Anyway, but
what's your?
So it's Road Guy Rob. If you want to go back and watch this.
Road trips.
Road Guy Rob.
But what's your?
Oh, my channel?
Niche.
Transportation engineering.
But not trains.
Well, sometimes trains.
We were hoping to get some.
Okay, so here's the deal. The Amtrak people are going to do a great job. You're going to love the Amtrak people. Amtrak doesn't own the tracks. So what'll happen is Union Pacific are going to stall out, and your Amtrak train's going to stop for 3 hours, and they're going to be really nice and bring you snacks, and you'll have a great time. And they'll keep giving you updates and say, sorry, we're still waiting for Union Pacific to tell us we can use the track. And so you're going to get to LA really late, but it won't be Amtrak's fault. It'll be Union Pacific.
What's your
road guy?
So you're suggesting we should
Rob.
drive?
Well,
look, Road Guy Rob.
Yep, that's it. There you go. So then you can hit the live. So no, dude. So then hit the live stream and watch yourself.
Look at this.
That's you.
Wait, what's the channel called?
There's 153 people watching.
Yeah. There's a few friends. So
What's your channel called?
Road Guy Rob. So subscribe to it, and then you can find it, and you can go back and watch yourself.
So So all of your subscribers are.
Well, they're not all watching right now.
What is your
But I mean-
content based around?
So transportation engineering. So
Okay.
it's getting
Yeah.
in and looking at like why do we build things the way we build
Yeah.
them.
No, we heard you talking about the train system in general.
But you're
Yeah.
not a fan of.
Well,
Sounds
no.
limited, I guess.
Well, I've never
You
ridden
could be a
it.
fan.
I've ridden the one in California that goes from Bakersfield to the Bay Area. I've ridden the one years ago that went from Salt Lake City to LA. That's not around anymore.
Are you from out west?
Yeah, I'm from California.
Yeah. Are you here
So-
on a vacation?
I'm out here for work, but I'm trying to enjoy it while I'm here. I was in California 7 days ago, and I'm going to be back out west in like 3 days. So, and I drove all of it. So it's been a real wild.
A driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you drive?
I drive a Prius, but not because it's fun.
No,
it's
I mean-
because I need to save money.
Yeah, you're doing
And then my other car is a Honda Fit with a stick shift, so you can drive the thing like a go-kart. So, but
We're
yeah,
about to get on a train
yeah,
tomorrow morning.
yeah. So have
Well,
fun.
you know.
You'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send me an email. Let me know.
We will.
Enjoy your night. Thanks.
Yeah. Y'all take care. Enjoy Amtrak. Okay. Oh, okay. We got to get caught back up here with figuring out where we were.
I've been yet.
They just ate a vignette. Okay, let's see. All right, we were talking about get some coffee and beignets at Cafe Du Monde when they're when you're done. Open 24 hours. Oh, really? Okay. I will go look them up because I'm getting a little cold. Let's see. So thank you very much. Yeah, for that's Matthew W. Normand 2041. Thank you, Matthew. Isaac _M with a super chat. Thank you, Isaac. Wrote, I drove on 201 4 times today in Utah. Shout out Magna. So as I posted a little bit in some YouTube shorts, my hometown I was raised in is the western suburb of Salt Lake City, Magna, off the 201 freeway. And so the 201 freeway was my freeway. Was a new driver's ed student. They had me drive we picked up a car from the district office. It was my first time driving on the road, and the instructor had me drive State Street to the freeway interchange onto the 201 freeway. And that was the freeway I drove the most as a kid. So yes, I have fond memories of Salt Lake or of Magna and Salt Lake County in the late 1990s, and then coming of age and then driving in the early aughts as a new driver. And it's not the same as it was. It's both better and worse. It's just changed. It's different. But man, it was a cool place to live in the 90s. Easy access to all the stuff in the valley. Had 1 million people in the valley, so you had about everything you wanted. Now they're pushing like 1.5 million to 2 million in the valley, and it's getting a lot more crowded. And I couldn't afford to go back if I wanted to. So, but I'm glad you had fun driving the 201 freeway. Brick attack, hiccup cure, tilt your head back and swallow some water. Yeah, I've done that. Or the other is you drink the water like this. That kind of works too. But yeah, thanks for the suggestion. Brian checking out says bye for today. Somebody asked him, where the hell are you at? New Orleans. So I didn't expect to be here. Since I am here, I'd have you come along here. Some people saying hello. School buses are party buses. Super chat, Subman721. Subman721, thank you very much. Writes, hey Rob, just wanted to thank you for taking the time to answer my question in your 200 questions episode. Fun side story on that video. And by the way, you're welcome. That was my privilege to take your questions. It's a little bit of a vanity thing for me to open that up. But I thought that was a good milestone, and we'll do it again at 300 or so. We'll find some kind of a milestone. I'm actually getting pretty close to, probably in the next year or so, 1,000 people paying on Patreon. Maybe we'll do a Patreon exclusive version of it for that. I don't know. We'll play with it and see. But you're welcome. And so at the end of that 200 questions video, if you've made it to the end, I do kind of a credits at the end with everybody who's contributed. And so I have some of the people who've been around the longest at the beginning with bigger credits, and then eventually get to everybody, I don't really do it by amount, because amount's not what matters. What's kind of neat is the support, the amount of time. Well, even if they were just giving $1, it's fun to have people who've consistently wanted to help out. But boy, these buildings are beautiful, just beautiful. We're not even in Bourbon Street, but just the French Quarter buildings are just gorgeous. So those credit scenes, I grabbed a music track from a production service I pay for, Storyblocks. Found a version with some fun lyrics and made it kind of almost like the end of a movie, where you have the rock track come on and the guy singing and the credits kind of bouncing around to the music, and I it was pretty sharp. So I sent it out. It's kind of a fun way to give you all a pat on the back for everything you've contributed, and on Patreon anyway. And I do something similar for YouTube, but there's no way to aggregate over the years all the people who've given super chats. YouTube doesn't give me that kind of a tool, where Patreon gives me a nice long list of everybody who's pitched in, so those people get the kudos. But so anyway, I have this music track. I paid money to use it. I run it through YouTube's upload tool, where it checks for copyright to make sure I'm not going to have any trouble. I post it, and about a day in, I get a content ID strike saying, oh, the copyright holder of that song now has the right to monetize your video, so all the ad money goes to him. And I go, no, it doesn't. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I reached out to Storyblocks and I said, hey, one of your people made a mistake. This is not something that I stole. This is something that let's set this down for a second. This isn't something I stole. This is something that I paid for. And Storyblocks didn't respond to my email for days. When I finally got a hold of them, they go, oh, well, we don't see anything on our end, so just go dispute it on YouTube. I'm like, oh, great. The whole point I'm paying for this is so I don't have to dispute things on YouTube, So YouTube's automated tool, I just typed in, there was no account numbers or license numbers or anything to put in there. I just wrote in, well, I'm a Storyblocks user and I paid for this. And they're like, great, well, we'll send this to the copyright holder and see if he disputes it back, then we'll give it to him. We'll keep running ads, we'll put it in escrow, and whoever basically, if he disputes it, but if he says it's fine, then you get the money. Well, finally, luck was on my side after 30 days. I just got a couple of days ago the notice that in the same way Storyblocks was unresponsive, this copyright holder was also unresponsive, and so I won. So I don't know what the ad revenue on that, or it's like $150 or something, but because I tried not to run a ton of ads in that video. If you leave it to YouTube, it'll try to run an ad every 5 minutes, and on something that's an hour and 45 minutes long, that's obnoxious. So that's why I try to take ad breaks like every 20, so anyway, that little bit will help, because I had a very lean month in November because I didn't have an actual video because we got busy working on that, and also putting out the talk I had to do at Cal Poly Pomona, and so, and then the one video I did release, ends up getting a copy flag that escrows it for a month. So November wasn't great, but It was definitely. So this looks like a good stop here, and we'll get caught back up on super chats here. This is there you go, the cigar factory. Not many towns I picture somebody wanting to just light up a fat cigar, but this seems like one that could be that way. All right.
That's like when you give me mushrooms and
Okay. So we got some people, some chats coming in. People asking where I'm at. Well, I'm in New Orleans, or New Orleans, as I would say as a Westerner. And make sure I'm not missing any, because so that's Pete Martin, 6270. Hello again. The double-digit super chat writes a generous one. So thank you very much. Right. Speaking of, and thoughts on commuter rail specifically, Minneapolis just announced it's eliminating its only commuter rail line due to unprofitability. There's a whole story there, by the way. Yeah, and it's one I saw in the headlines. I mentioned in the Patreon podcast I do once a month, where I go through some of the transportation news stories of the month. And yeah, I didn't go deep into it because I just basically read what the newspaper says and then kind of tell you what it's talking about. But yeah, it sounded like it was a combination of, I think there was some federal grant they lost, but also just the ridership numbers were poor. And so it kind of ended. You know, we talk about transit always needing subsidy, which all transportation needs subsidy. It's a service. But at the same time, at a certain point, there's good, better, best. And it's like, well, if you dump so many millions of dollars running I'll just do a hypothetical example. If I have a $1 million train line each year that 10 people ride over the course of the year, it's costing me $100,000 per rider to provide that service, versus if I expand bus service with the same grant or the same tax pool of tax money, could I get a benefit of where I only have to put in $100 a rider, and so I can benefit 1,000 people for every one I was doing on this other thing. Now that's like an exaggerated example, but those are the types of calculations they do. You know, despite the rhetoric of just there being all this federal waste or whatever, no, like to get a grant is very competitive. You have to go to the U.S. Department of Transportation and fight other cities to demonstrate that you're going to spend the money better and get more value per dollar, be able to provide more to each transit rider, spending less than others to win that grant. And so it could be that's why they lost the grant, is because when it's competitive, they looked at it and said, sorry, this was better spent somewhere else. But I haven't followed that story super closely to know exactly what happened. But sorry, check my battery level real quick to see where we're at here. 1%. So this is going to end real quick here. So let's we got some super chats to go through if we're at 1%. Okay, I was afraid of that. I think both my batteries are dead. Okay, so thanks again. Subman, Pete Martin, Isaac, tell us about the Salt Lake City Amtrak Desert Wind. I wrote it when I was a kid. My grandparents were moving to from California to Utah. We needed to go back and pick up one of the cars that belonged to my grandpa, so I wrote it with my dad. As a kid, we had to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't get to LA till like 6 p.m. the next day because Union Pacific kept taking over the tracks. And I remember we had a long stay over in Las Vegas, and I never rode Amtrak again for a long time. Dirt Bottom text 4776 with a super chat. Sorry, I have to be fast. I got 1% of battery left. Ever visited Pittsburgh? No, not yet. We've only shared bus, light rail tunnel in the U.S. I'll have to check that out. So it's bus and light rail that goes through a tunnel. And a month-long interstate closure for bridge replacement in 2026. I need to do a Pennsylvania one because I want to sometimes check out the Pennsylvania Turnpike and figure out why it's so darn expensive. Thanks for the super chat. Okay, so we're caught up. This thing's going to die at any second. So now I can go through a little bit and talk more slowly. Yeah, the desert wind was a lot of fun. It was a great moment with my dad. But when I was a kid, I had the chance. My mom said, do you want to go on an airplane or a train? And I picked a train. And that was a lifelong memory. I've always loved Amtrak. I wish that they owned their own rail. I think if they did, more people would ride it. Yeah, Pittsburgh and Philly, I haven't really spent significant time in either one of them. So because I've only gone through Pennsylvania. I've never actually stopped. So I wish we could keep going because I'm having a lot of fun, but the phone's dead. It's dead. What happened is I use a battery bank, and the battery bank